Chapter 401, Fiery Flames of the Falling Sun. I am from the profound peak, and pay my respects to Brother Tang Huan. After he finished speaking, the Tian clan man's eyes turned and his gaze landed on Tang Huan. He cupped his hands and smiled. The great reputation of Brother Tang Huan is clear to hear even within the Ashen Feather secret realm of my Tian clan. Brother Tang Huan has always been far ahead on this golden altar, causing this lowly one to be unable to catch up to him. However, Brother Tang Huan must hurry up. If I accidentally let me pass through the 9th floor first, that would be too embarrassing. As he finished speaking, Zhuan Feng laughed out loud again, but there was a hint of provocation between his brows. There's no need to be embarrassed, because you won't have the chance. Tang Huan sized up Zhuan Feng, the corner of his mouth slightly lifted, as he lightly smiled. Is that so? That's hard to say. The smile on Zhuan Feng's face stiffened and he curled his lips in an instant. He lifted his hand to press down on a golden figure on the opposite wall. Buzz. Seeing that, Tang Huan also extended his hand out calmly. After a moment, a trembling sound came out, and a dense golden light quickly enveloped Tang Huan's body. Tang Huan, who had once again entered the illusory space, did not have the slightest hint of nervousness or panic. In between mind instructs, in a second, Tang Huan had already activated both the 9 Yang Divine Furnace and 5 Colors Spiritual Pills to their limits. Inside the spirit palette, the 5 elements circulated and a strange undulation spread outwards. In the next moment, Tang Huan's soul seemed to be pulled, and also started to fluctuate rapidly, harmonizing with the spirit palette. After he had advanced to stage 9 Martial Saint, there seemed to be a strange connection between his soul and the spirit pellets. If he wanted to condense a strong aura, his soul and the spirit pellets had to work together. According to Tang Huan's judgment, Yu Fian should have already comprehended the force long ago. Only at the foot of the Wofu Saint Mountain that day could he suppress the many experts of the demon clan to the point that they didn't dare to move. And with this realization, the biggest obstacle between the 8th stage Martial Lord and the 8th stage 9 Martial Saint had been completely eliminated. After a split second, a majestic aura that seemed to have condensed substance gushed out of Tang Huan's body like a volcano eruption. An extremely terrifying pressure immediately emerged. But at the same time, the opposing stage 9 Golden Man also released a tyrannical imposing aura and pressure. Clang 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 clang. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. It was as if 2 monstrous waves had smashed into each other. Amidst the earth-shaking sounds, the space distorted rapidly, as if even this illusory space was about to be shattered. After going through hundreds of failures, he was finally able to fight back with his potential. To be able to resist the imposing aura and coercion of the stage 9 Golden Man, when Tang Huan fought him, he no longer felt restricted by his limbs, and it was as if there was a shackle on his body. Right now, Tang Huan and the stage 9 Golden Man were already standing at the same height. He could finally have a hearty battle. Take it. Tang Huan laughed out loud. The dragon and phoenix lance in his hands had already roared out, causing heat to surge within him. 9th level of the Golden Altar. Buzz. Once again, intense tremors rang out and Zhuan Feng's body was finally covered by the golden light. However, in just a short span of 1 or 2 breaths, the light quickly faded and his figure once again appeared. His incomparably handsome face was filled with surprise and unexplainable emotions. He failed just like that? How is that possible? Zhuan Feng looked at Tang Huan, whose body was glowing with a golden light not far away in the blink of an eye, and then looked at the golden figure on the wall in front of him. It occurred to him that his first attempt might fail, but it would only fail after a fierce battle. Not as thoroughly as it was now. After entering the illusory space, he didn't even have the time to make a move before his entire body exploded and vanished into thin air. Kid, how do you feel? After a long while, a mocking voice woke Zhuan Feng up. In the blink of an eye, he saw the blue-clothed youth from Human Clan who had been following behind him all the way to the 9th floor. Hearing his words, Zhuan Feng's white and jade-like face instantly became unsettled. With a cold snort, Zhuan Feng's right palm once again touched the wall. After about half a quarter of an hour, He experienced another failure. The process was almost the same as before. Before he even made a move, he was already killed by the Stage 9 Golden Man in the illusory space. When he came back to his senses, he saw the blue-clothed youth looking at him with a face full of ridicule. He couldn't help but turn ashen. At this time, he finally understood why Tang Huan stayed on the 9th floor of the Golden Altar for such a long time. However, understanding was one thing, and being able to do it was another matter. After all, the things he knew came from the explanation of his senior, not from his own comprehension. In the illusionary space, even though he had the cultivation of a Stage 9 Law Saint, he was unable to display the corresponding strength, so it was naturally impossible for him to be a match for a real Stage 9 Law Saint. He looked at Tang Huan in the blink of an eye. Seeing that he was still immersed in the illusory space, Zhuan Feng's eyes flickered. When he first tried to activate the opponent at the 9th level of the Golden Altar, Tang Huan was already in such a state. Now, he had failed the second time, but Tang Huan was still in such a state. Counting down, it had already been over a quarter of an hour and Tang Huan was still fighting his opponent. Could it be that he could pass this trial? If that really was the case, then he would have no hope at all. Just as Zhuan Feng's expression changed, Tang Huan's body trembled slightly as the golden light on his body retreated back into the wall. He had failed. There was still a chance. When Zhuan Feng saw this, he clapped his hands together and endured the urge to laugh. Just a little more. Tang Huan was not disheartened. He only smiled slightly and sat down cross-legged, closing his eyes slightly. In his mind, the flaming rainbow spear art flashed past. For this kind of second-ranked spear art, Tang Huan only knew 4 styles, namely Prairie Flames, Beacon Smoke, Flame Dragon Dance, and Profound Fire Transformation. The 5th style, Sunset Flames, and the 6th style, Flaming Rainbow. Before continuing his practice, Tang Huan decided to first cultivate the 5th form successfully, and then practice the 6th form properly. Even after comprehending force, it still ended in failure. This already made Tang Huan understand that he needed a stronger combat skill now. He was already a martial lord of the 8th step and could completely cultivate Fiery Solar. This process of cultivation might take a long time. However, if one did not have an even stronger battle skill, even if one tried it, it would be difficult to win. As for the other 2 who were already at the 9th level of the Golden Altar, Tang Huan did not care. How could this test be so easy to pass? In the midst of his thoughts, Tang Huan had already calmed his heart down, and started pondering over the profoundness of the spear art. Fiery Solar Flames of the Falling Sun. Chapter 402. I'll win this time. Realizing that the difficulty of the 9th level of the Golden Altar was far beyond his imagination, Zhuan Feng finally straightened his state of mind. Like the blue-clothed youth not far away, he began to try again and again. After every failure, they would be the same as Tang Huan, constantly pondering and learning from their mistakes. Tang Huan's attention was completely focused on the flaming rainbow spear art. After carefully studying it for a long time, he directly started to practice on the 9th level of the Golden Altar. Within the sun space, as long as he didn't fight with others, he wouldn't have to worry about being killed when he used his combat skill. He did not know how the 7 glorious star plate had done this. He only felt that there was a pair of eyes watching every corner of this place. Tang Huan even guessed that this 7 glorious star plate was similar to the blood rose sword he forged, possessing an artifact spirit. Time flew by. Unknowingly, the number of people on the 9th floor had increased to 6. Aside from Tang Huan, Profound Peak and the blue-clothed youth, there were 3 more people. Human Clan, Tian Clan and Human Clan were one of them, and almost all of them were experts at the peak of the 8th step. This time, I will definitely win. Zhuan Feng, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground like a statue, suddenly sprung up and viciously swung his fist. In front of him, he had held on for more than 20 breaths of time, and even though he had still been defeated in the end, his confidence had been greatly boosted. Zhuan Feng, you've said this dozens of times. A few meters away, the blue-clothed young man suddenly laughed strangely and said he was different from Zhuan Feng. After failing dozens of times, he finally chose to give up. For the rest of the time, he cultivated in the 9th level of the Golden Altar. The effect of cultivating in this place was not the least bit inferior to the 3rd level of the Heavenly Spirit Realm, especially the golden rays of light he absorbed during the first 8 trials. Not only could he increase his cultivation, the effect of cultivating his flesh body was also extremely obvious. Dozens of times, Luo Xingkang, even if I fail again this time, I'm still better than a coward like you who doesn't know how to stop. I know my own limits. The blue-clothed youth called Luo Xingkang laughed out loud. Unlike some people, you are always overestimating yourself. Just as he was about to retort back, he suddenly saw from the corner of his eyes that Tang Huan had stopped his battle skills practice and was standing face to face with the wall on the 9th floor of the round altar. He could not help but feel his heart skip a beat, and did not care about bickering with Luo Xingkang anymore. This may be the last time. The corner of Tang Huan's mouth lifted into a smile, his 2 eyes swept across his surroundings, and then landed once again on the golden figure on the wall in front of him. In the next moment, Tang Huan took a deep breath, and his right palm pressed out at lightning speed. On the 9th level of the Golden Altar, the rest of the people immediately noticed the commotion caused by Tang Huan. He made a move before Tang Huan, but the golden figure under his palm had not moved, while Tang Huan was the last to move. He had tried to guess multiple times, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't understand how Tang Huan could trigger his opponents so quickly and enter the illusory space. Furthermore, he and the other experts of the 3 clans had to brew for a long time to be able to do so. After he fiercely cursed a few times in his heart, Zhuan Feng finally calmed down. Luo Xingkang and the others who were at the side couldn't help but look at each other. The 3 experts at the peak of the 8th step that came after Luo Xingkang also chose to give up after a few tries. It was disappointing that they had only just reached the 9th level of the Golden Altar after Tang Huan had tried it several hundred times. If there were people like Tang Huan, they might still have the mood to compete against him. However, the current situation did not give them the slightest bit of confidence. Seeing Tang Huan make his move again after a long interval, the few of them had a premonition that the location of the Sun Spirit body would be revealed very soon. At this moment, inside the illusory space that Tang Huan was in, an intense battle had erupted. Clang, clang. The 2 spears clashed against each other at an astonishing speed. Each time they collided, a fierce and violent strength chi would sweep out. Like a raging wave, layer after layer of wailing was sent flying in all directions. The loud explosive sounds were like thunder, intermixed with the terrifying waves, and surged back and forth in this small area. However, no matter how much the void twisted and distorted, the illusory space was still impregnable. If it was such a huge battle in the outside world, even if it was a mountain, half of it would have been cut off by this frenzied strength chi. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. At the same time the 2 terrifying auras clashed, the 2 dragon and phoenix spears separated almost immediately, and the 2 figures were pushed back continuously by the strength chi. Bam! His back fiercely collided against the wall, but Tang Huan's movements didn't seem to slow in the slightest as he leaped forward. Ho! In the air, the long spear in Tang Huan's hands roared madly, and on the spear tip, a ball of flame suddenly rose up. The spearhead was like a spirit serpent. As it moved about rhythmically, the ball of flame quickly expanded, and in an instant, it seemed to have turned into a bright red sun. The spear in the stage 9 golden man's hands danced crazily as he unleashed the 4th form of the flaming rainbow spear art. Profound fire transformation. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. A deafening explosion sounded as the sun in the sky descended like a meteorite from the sky and roared at the golden man of the stage 9. Wherever it went, it seemed as if the space had been penetrated. A long flame burst out, releasing a dazzling red light. This was the 5th form of the flaming rainbow spear art, sunset flames. Almost at the same time, the ball of fire on the stage 9 golden man's spear also turned into streaks of fiery red light, rushing over while blotting out the sky. At this moment, the heat in this illusionary space had already risen to a terrifying level. It was as if it could melt gold and turn into iron. In a split second, The falling sun collided with a dense fiery red stream of light. Bam! Amidst the shocking exploding sounds, the berserk strength chi was like a violent storm, sweeping out wave after wave and frantically hitting the surrounding walls. In the blink of an eye, the two collided thousands of times. The fiery red stream of light shattered one after another, and the sun was shrinking rapidly. But overall, the latter seemed to have the upper hand, and when all the fiery red light had almost disappeared, the sun was still as big as a bowl, smashing towards the Stage 9 Golden Man. The Stage 9 Golden Man also noticed that the situation was not good. He thrusted the long spear in his hand out, and a sharp whistle resounded through the air. Bang, bang, bang. After a series of sounds of collisions, the sun finally collapsed, turning into specks of red light, dissipating into the air. But at this time, a group of extremely condensed flames quickly spiraled around like a rainbow, breaking through the air, looking like a sharp haul condensed from fire, seemingly unstoppable. This was the sixth move of the spear art, Flaming Rainbow of the True Flames, Chapter 403, True Flame Flowing Rainbow. In the process of training the 5 techniques of the spear technique at the 9th level of the Golden Altar, Tang Huan had almost understood the 6th form of True Flame Rainbow Spear technique. However, Tang Huan did not start training at that time. He had already known for a long time that the battle skills that his opponents had in this illusionary space were completely based on the battle skills that Tang Huan had grasped. When he was outside, he had mastered the Fallen Sun Fiery Blaze style, so the Stage 9 Golden Man would definitely be able to use it. If Tang Huan could successfully practice the 6th form of the spear technique from the 9th level of the Golden Altar, the Golden Man of the Stage 9 would also be able to grasp this powerful spear art. Therefore, Tang Huan still held back. This time, when he entered the illusory space, Tang Huan and the Golden Man of the Stage 9 had been fighting for a long time, in order to completely master the 6th form of the spear technique. The battle skill that Tang Huan had mastered was something that the Stage 9 Golden Man would never know about during this exchange. Of course, if he still lost this time, the next time he entered the illusionary space, Tang Huan would be facing an opponent who had comprehended the same 6th form as him. Kai. Amidst the ear-piercing sound, an abnormally terrifying energy wave spread out, causing the entire space to be stirred up by the flaming pointed awl. On the other side, the Stage 9 Golden Man seemed to be in a daze. However, in the next moment, as if he had just awoken from a dream, he waved his spear. Raging flames rose from it, coalescing into another fiery sun. Amidst the screeching sound that could pierce through gold and shatter stone, the sun was like a meteor that came whistling down from the horizon, rumbling as it welcomed the fiery rainbow that was shaped like a sharp awl. At this moment, the Golden Man of the Stage 9 had also unleashed the 5th form of the True Flaming Rainbow Spear technique, Sunset Flames. Bam! With a loud cry, the sunny sunburst flames crashed into the flaming rainbow of the True Flames. After a moment, an extremely bizarre scene appeared in the midst of the illusionary space. The rapidly spinning fiery rainbow looked like a sharp drill as it drilled its way through the center of the round red sun, landing right on the chest of the Golden Man of the Stage 9 with lightning speed. Boom! Boom! Immediately afterwards, the sun and flames that had been pierced through exploded at the same time, and the violent and tyrannical strength chi wantonly moved about in the illusory space. The terrifying heat was like a stormy sea, rapidly fluctuating, causing the entire region to be filled with the fiery red aura. Ho! Just at that moment, a mass of golden light suddenly tore through the space and shot towards Tang Huan. This time, I will definitely win. On the 9th level of the Golden Altar, Zhuan Feng stood up, gritting his teeth as he growled. His expression had even become somewhat sinister. Not long ago, he experienced another failure, and it was when he felt that he could defeat his opponent. He was killed. In the last few battles, he had nearly won every battle. This kind of failure made him extremely unwilling to accept it. After summing up the lessons learned, Zhuan Feng encouraged himself once more. A few meters away, Luo Xingkong couldn't help but pout her lips when she heard his words. Ever since Tang Huan began to try, he and the other three guys at the peak of the 8th step did not cultivate. They had been observing Tang Huan's movements the entire time, wanting to see if he could succeed this time. Because of this, the movements of the Profound Peak were also captured by Luo Xingkang. He was very clear why the Profound Peak had such an expression. Almost every time he failed, this guy would shout out with incomparable depression, "Just a little more and I'll win." In his opinion, this was only a misconception of Profound Peak. A little bit more at a time. It was impossible to get a little bit more every time. It was always like this, which meant that there was still a huge gap between Xuanfeng and the Stage 9 Golden Man. Xuanfeng was within it, so he didn't understand it, but he could see it clearly from the sidelines. Under the gaze of Luo Xingkang and the others, Xuanfeng took a deep breath and walked toward the wall. However, just as Xuanfeng was raising his arm, a golden light suddenly flashed from the side. He subconsciously looked over in the blink of an eye, and Tang Huan's figure clearly appeared. The layer of golden light that covered his body had already disappeared. Was this a success or a failure? Xuanfeng was startled, and subconsciously looked at the golden figure that Tang Huan had pressed down. When the opponent was activated, the golden light would cover the body of the person participating in the test and the figure would immediately dim down. If he failed the test, the golden light would immediately flow back, and the figure would naturally shine again. But if he successfully passed the test, the golden figure would remain dim and dim. It would take a long time before he could recover to his original state. At this moment, within the line of sight of the Profound Mountain, the figure Tang Huan was pressing down was completely dim. This. Xuanfeng's mouth was slightly agape and his eyes were fixed. The expression on his handsome jade-like face had actually become exceptionally marvelous. "Mom, did I succeed? The test is over. This Tang Huan is really powerful." On the 9th floor of the Golden Altar, the expert from the Demon Clan, after a brief moment of shock, actually suppressed his voice and cursed fiercely. Luo Xingkang, the other Tian clan girl and one of the human clans could not help but exclaim out loud. They had already expected such a result, but now that they had personally witnessed Tang Huan successfully passing the 9th level of the Golden Altar, they were still quite shocked. Tang Huan had fused with the Nirvana sacred fire, so his strength was already extremely tyrannical, far surpassing that of ordinary martial lord of the 8th step. Now that he had condensed the Sun Spirit body, his strength would definitely become even more terrifying. Before entering the 7 glorious star plate, it was said that Tang Huan had killed numerous demonic commanders of the 8th step in a row. After leaving the 7 glorious star plate, no martial lordess of the 8th step, magic sect or demonic commander would be a match for Tang Huan, if he were to be promoted to stage 9 martial saint in the future. TSK. While they were shocked, their hearts were filled with envy and jealousy. "I finally succeeded." An uncontrollable joy surfaced in Tang Huan's heart, and immediately after, he subconsciously looked towards the bottom of the Golden Altar. Whether it was a success or a failure, Tang Huan would have to turn around and look at the condition of Mu Yan and the 7-colored spirit mouse in order to be at ease. Fortunately, there were no problems at all until now. Seeing the little guy waving his claws at him with all his might, Tang Huan couldn't help but smile, and then turn around. Under the gazes of Xuanfeng and Luo Xingkang, who had different expressions, he lifted his leg and walked towards the opposite wall. The path from the 1st level to the 8th level was unimpeded, but he had experienced hundreds of failures in the 9th level. He was killed time and time again by his opponents in the illusory space, and he had to learn from his mistakes and keep trying. It was finally time to reap the rewards. Tang Huan's heart was filled with emotions. A moment later, his figure had already quickly merged with the wall on the 9th floor of the Golden Altar. Chapter 404, Sun Spirit Body. At the top of the Golden Altar, Tang Huan's figure appeared. Buzz. Shortly afterwards, a clear and loud tremble resounded in the space of the sun. The jade pillar at the top of the 9th layer immediately began to emit trillions of rays of golden light. The next moment, no matter if it was those sitting cross-legged or those warriors of the 3 clans who were fighting inside the illusory space, they suddenly woke up. They felt an irresistible pushing force, and their bodies couldn't help but be wrapped up by that force and sent flying out. Phew! Huff! From the 2nd level to the 9th level, numerous figures floated down. Even the experts of the 3 races, who were still stuck at the bottom level of the metal altar, were involuntarily pushed back by that tremendous force. What's going on? I'll soon pass the 3rd trial and enter the 4th level. Tang Huan. The one above is Tang Huan. Everyone, quickly look over there. It's Tang Huan who has successfully passed the 9th floor's test. This sudden turn of events made all the experts of the 3 clans, who had just left the illusory space, look at each other in dismay. This sudden change of events made all the experts of the 3 clans, who had just left the illusory space, look at each other in dismay. Back then, when they saw Tang Huan taking the lead and climbing to the 9th level of the golden altar, they had all thought that the location of the sun spirit body was without suspense. But after that, seeing that Tang Huan had continuously failed, and that Zhuan Feng, Luo Xingkong and the rest had all reached the 9th level of the golden altar, everyone felt that although Tang Huan was the first to go up, that sun spirit body might not necessarily be his. However, this thought was pushed down by the crowd not long after it appeared, because that profound mountain also repeated Tang Huan's experiences, and in the end, Luo Xingkong and the others even gave up trying. Under these circumstances, how could anyone compare to Tang Huan, who stayed in the 9th level of the golden altar for the longest period of time? Now, the competition for the sun spirit body had came to an end. Tang Huan was indeed the victor. Sigh, it's this Tang Huan again. However, although the one who obtained the sun spirit body was not me, it is still our human clan. It's just a sun spirit body. What's the big deal? I do not believe that this so-called sun spirit body is stronger than our demon clan's body refining techniques. Demon clan's body tempering technique? It was said that before the appearance of the 7 glorious star plate, a large number of so-called experts from the demon clan were stabbed to death by Tang Huan. Almost without any warning, intense curses and insults resounded around the golden altar. One after another, the clamor caused the space to tremble. All of a sudden, the inside of the sun space was filled with the smell of gunpowder. However, whether it was the human clan S or the demon clan S, or the Tian clan S who were occasionally affected by the disaster, none of them dared to make a move. During this period of time, there were already nearly 10 fellows who coveted after the 7-colored spirit mouse, and had been completely wiped out from this world by the sun space. Squeak squeak. His eyes swiveled back and forth, constantly paying attention to the movements around him. His small body had already expanded countless of times, tightly holding the gourd and jade bottle in his arms, in order to not be taken advantage of by others. Buzz. Suddenly, there was another violent tremble in the air and the surroundings of the golden altar quieted down. Everyone subconsciously looked towards the source of the voice and saw that the 9-level altar seemed to have transformed into a living creature. Large patches of golden light continued to howl upwards. In the blink of an eye, the entire golden altar had become dark and gloomy. Tang Huan had already quietly sat in front of the jade pillar with his spear placed at his side. Not long later, an extremely dense golden stream of light surged forward, covering him in multiple layers. From afar, he looked like a giant golden cocoon. Whoosh, whiz. A few figures whizzed up from a hole in the center of the 7 glorious star plate. After a flick of a finger, their feet landed on the ground, and they were all from 3 demon clans. The sun, the whiteness. It really is the 7 glorious star plate. The hair on his body revealed a dazzling gold hue. His body was 3 meters tall, and was extremely sturdy. The muscles on his 4 limbs were all twisted, and his entire body seemed to be filled with explosive power. Big Brother Fenlei, where are we going? One of the demonified also said with a smile. Go, to the sun space. Of course, the beefy man called Thunder Burning laughed out loud. He unexpectedly moved like a mountain of flesh, striding forward with large strides. In just 10 breaths, he and the door of the sun were already within reach, yet his footsteps still did not stop. Bam! An instant later, The burning thunder who had stepped into the arched door seemed to have collided against an incomparably thick wall, and it immediately bounced back. It actually took it more than a dozen steps before standing firm. This kind of scene caused Fenley to be rather stunned. What's going on? Can't I get in? Brother, look, the sun, Lunar, Red Wanderer and Chenxing are still alive. There are still sounds coming from the Tabai, Star Caesar and Star Caesar. A Eagleman girl screamed. There's no movement. Could it be because there's already a spirit body, and the movement is because the spirit body hasn't returned yet? The demon said in a strange voice. That must be it. Fenley ruthlessly smacked his head, and said in a vexed tone, what a pity, what a pity, we came too late. Forget it, forget it. Since I can't enter the gate of the sun, then I'll go to the gate of Supreme White. I wonder how the comparison between the Tabai spirit body and the sun spirit body will be? As he spoke, Fenley had already changed his direction, and explosively shot towards the Tabai gate. The demonified man and the Eagleman immediately rushed up. Not long later, the three figures disappeared into the Tabai gate. After these three demon clans, there were also experts from the three families that appeared one after another. However, they could only choose to enter the three spaces, Tabai, Twilight and Star Caesar. Within the space of the sun, the fight that was powerful enough to cause a fierce battle in the outside world had already ended. Almost everyone was sitting cross-legged below the round altar, quietly cultivating. Now that the sun spirit body belonged to them, even if they went up there, they wouldn't have any meaning. At this time, they couldn't leave the sun space either, so they could only cultivate. At the top of the golden altar, a golden light still flickered like before, shining brightly. In front of the jade pillar, the enormous golden cocoon was motionless like a sculpture, but inside the enormous golden cocoon, Tang Huan was immersed in a kind of incomparably miraculous transformation. Chapter 405 Metamorphosis. Wang, wang. Deep and rapid piercing sounds that would occasionally burst out from the jade pillar behind him and penetrate the giant cocoon. An invisible force swept through Tang Huan's body like a wave. Every time this happened, a large area of dense golden qi would separate from the giant cocoon and quickly infiltrate into Tang Huan's limbs and organs. Unknowingly, Tang Huan's bones, muscles, and blood were slowly being dyed in gold. As Tang Huan's body continuously transformed, the giant cocoon gradually shrank. After an unknown amount of time had passed, the top of the golden altar in the 9th floor could vaguely be seen through the extremely thin golden cocoon and see Tang Huan's figure inside, sitting cross-legged. TSK, Tang Huan's sun spirit body is probably about to be condensed successfully, right? At the edge of the sun space, a human clan who had just woken up from cultivation subconsciously looked at the highest point of the golden altar with a face full of envy. This guy's luck is too good. A Tian clan man by the side answered. I'm not relying on luck, I'm relying on strength. The human clan regained his senses, but upon hearing this, he couldn't help but snort. Isn't your Tian clan's Zhuanfeng also reached the 9th floor? Unfortunately, his strength wasn't enough, and he was unable to pass Tang Huan's test even after such a long time. A year is almost up. A dozen meters away, a demon of the 8th step of Demon Clan looked up at the round altar. His face suddenly became gloomy. The opponent of Human Clan on the 9th floor must be the Stage 9 Martial Saint, and if one wants to defeat the Stage 9 Martial Saint, one must first comprehend the power of the Martial Saint. Tang Huan has passed the 9th floor's test, so he definitely has a deep understanding of power and influence. This means that there are no longer any obstacles in his way from the 8th to Stage 9 Martial Saint. You mean that after Tang Huan condenses the Sun Spirit body, he can ascend to Stage 9 Martial Saint at any time? A werewolf of the 8th step exclaimed softly, his eyes filled with fear. Not only him, the other Demon Clans around were also panicking. Exactly. After we leave the Star Plate, if we are still at the same place, we must split up and return to the Wofu Saint Mountain as soon as possible. However, you don't have to worry too much. According to my estimation, at that time, the first person Tang Huan would look for would probably still be young Master Fen Han. It's all Fen Han's fault. If he didn't want to kill that Mu Yan, he wouldn't have caused such a thing, and he wouldn't have caused us such heavy casualties. This time, even if he escapes from Tang Huan's grasp and returns back to Tranquil Continent, his position of young master would almost came to an end. So many monarchs, Fen Han and Fen Lei originally had the highest chance of inheriting the position of Demon Lord. But now, I'm afraid that only young Master Fen Lei is left. Buzz. At this moment, a low and deep sound rang out without any warning. It sounded as if it was directly resonating in the depths of everyone's souls. At this moment, regardless of whether it might be the people whispering to one another or the experts from the three clans who were immersed in cultivation, everyone was shocked awake. Immediately afterwards, everyone discovered that the ground beneath their feet seemed to be slightly trembling. It's been a year already, the time limit is up. In the dark, the crowd seemed to have caught a glimpse of the seven glorious star plate that was about to close. They all stood up at the same time. At the 9th level of the golden altar, the golden aura entered his body and the giant golden cocoon that had enveloped him in it finally disappeared. The current Tang Huan was like a Buddha statue in his previous life. Not only did his exposed skin have a golden luster, a golden light also penetrated through his clothes and spread out. Tang Huan suddenly opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. A smile unconsciously appeared on his face, and after a while, the golden light that was emitted from the surface of his body quickly disappeared. The golden light on his skin was also fading bit by bit, and not long later, Tang Huan's appearance returned to normal. The sun spirit body is indeed magical. Tang Huan carefully sensed the changes in his body and was ecstatic. At the moment, Tang Huan felt that his body was no longer formed from flesh and blood vessels, but completely formed from energy. It was actually extremely smooth. In an instant, energy had already reached every part of his body, and not only that, Tang Huan even felt that his body was extremely light, as if he could become like the people of the Tian clan floating in the air, and float at any time. Buzz. The beauty of this sun spirit body was definitely more than just this. Just as Tang Huan was about to continue savoring it, another low and deep sound resonated throughout the sun space, and in an instant, the 9 layers of high altar beneath his feet, and even the entire sun space, started to tremble. The time limit has come so quickly. Tang Huan was startled. He immediately looked up. The space in front of him suddenly distorted, and a golden arched door appeared. You can leave now. The experts from the 3 clans immediately rushed out from below. Tang Huan regained his senses and took a step forward. His body was as light as a swallow and effortlessly floated to Mu Yan's side, startling the 7-colored spirit mouse. Tang Huan touched the head of the 7-colored spirit mouse, without bothering to explain anything. With a thought, he kept the bottle containing the true fire spirit spring water and the jade bottle containing the round fusion pill back into the Sumeru magical ring, and then tied Mu Yan up on his back. King was right. After an entire year had passed, Mu Yan's injuries had indeed not worsened any further. Although the fluctuations of her soul were weak, it was still stable. In addition, 1 drop of the true fire spirit spring every day would allow Mu Yan's flesh body to maintain its vitality at all times. Compared to 1 year ago, Mu Yan was still as charming and gentle as before. Her face was also a lot redder, making her look like a sleeping beauty. Little brat, come up, we should go out now. Zizi. The rainbow spirit mouse cried out happily and jumped onto Tang Huan's shoulder in a few breaths' time. Tang Huan then dashed forward at an extremely fast speed. With a single leap, he was already more than 10 meters away. Within a few breaths of time, Tang Huan had already passed through the sun door. The world in front of his eyes changed rapidly. After a moment, Tang Huan's feet were firmly planted on the ground. But after a look, Tang Huan frowned. The place to lawn was not the 7 glorious star plate, nor the valley below the star plate, which had long been turned into ruins. It was a sparse forest. However, in the blink of an eye, Tang Huan had a glimpse of those few familiar pillars of light that shot into the sky. Evidently, the moment they left the sun space, Everyone inside would be randomly sent to different parts of the Wofu world. I thank everyone for their rewards and monthly tickets. The monthly ticket rankings are still at 4th place, so it was very dangerous for me to temporarily keep my chrysanthemum from exploding. Also, there is a welfare event for the cultural tribes. Everyone, please participate. Please read more and place it at the top of your list. Chapter 406. I've been waiting. This is the southeastern part of the Wofu world. The entrance to the demon clan Azura's secret realm is at the eastern border of the Wofu world. I wonder where that Fen Han will be sent to by the 7 glorious star plate. After he returns to the Wofu world, will he return to the Wofu holy mountain in the central region? Or will he leave this place and return to the Azura's secret realm? Tang Huan thought for a moment, and a look of hesitation appeared on his face. He could let any other person from the demon clan go. Only Fen Han would be able to get rid of him as soon as possible. That day in the valley, if it wasn't for the sudden turn of events, Fen Han would have long since become the ghost under his spear. Next up, on the 7 glorious star plate, Fen Han had escaped calamity. Now that he was out of the star plate, Tang Huan did not want to let him go. Little brat, do you think that bastard will head east to the Azura mystic realm, or head towards the Wofu holy mountain in the center? Tang Huan's eyebrows could not help but twitch. He suddenly looked down at the 7-colored spirit mouse that had crawled out of his chest and asked, "Squeak squeak." Hearing this, the little guy stretched out his little claw to scratch his head, and seemed to be at a loss as he quietly called out. Seeing that, Tang Huan could not help but laugh. This rainbow spirit mouse was indeed adept at tracking, but that would still depend on the situation. If Fen Han had passed by this place not long ago, the rainbow spirit mouse would naturally be able to quickly track Fen Han's trail by following his scent. At this moment, Tang Huan suddenly thought of another problem. More than a year ago, how did this little fellow find him near the Wofu holy mountain? Although it was familiar with its smell, Muyan didn't even know when he would appear at that time. Zizi. Right at this moment, the rainbow spirit mouse suddenly jumped down from Tang Huan's body. Like a streak of rainbow light, it charged forward at lightning speed. Tang Huan was slightly startled. He realized that the 7-colored spirit mouse was heading towards the place where the cyan-colored light at the eastern border of the Wofu world was located, towards the entrance of the Azura's secret realm. Could it be that it also felt that Fen Han would hurry over there as soon as he left the 7-plane star plate? However, was the rainbow spirit mouse relying on something? Or was this just its intuition? Whoosh! In a blink of an eye, Tang Huan had already explosively shot forward. His speed was at least several times faster than when he had just broken through to the 8th stage of Martial Lord a year ago. In a blink of an eye, Tang Huan was already 100 meters away, and caught up to the 7-colored spirit mouse which was flying quickly in front. Little brat, come up, Zizi. Just as Tang Huan's low shout came out, the rainbow spirit mouse came back to Tang Huan's shoulder. Actually, what Tang Huan wanted to go to was the entrance of the Azura's secret realm, but he still had some hesitation, and the action of the 7-colored spirit mouse was equivalent to helping him make up his mind. Since he had already made his decision, Tang Huan's movements did not slow at all. Like a shadow, he sped through the forest. Within the sun space, Tang Huan had been focusing all his attention on passing the trial of the Golden Altar, and from start to finish, he had never deliberately trained in it. But even so, after a year had passed, Tang Huan's cultivation had already reached the peak of the 8th stage. The comprehension of force in the 9th level of the Golden Altar made Tang Huan feel that if he were to rush into Stage 9 Martial Saint now, he should have already had a good grasp of it. However, Tang Huan didn't act in such a hurry. He hoped to sharpen his cultivation to the extreme, and take the final step. Just like Yufian, she had already thoroughly comprehended force. Even when she was still at the peak of the 8th step, she was already able to use her tyrannical and fearless imposing manner. However, she had stayed at the peak of the 8th step for several years. Even when she had ascended to the 7 glorious star plate, she had still not advanced to become a Stage 9 Martial Saint. There had to be a reason for this. With Yufian's current attainments, if he did not advance, then it was fine. But once he did, his strength would definitely be extremely shocking. Stage 9 Martial Saint. An expression of anticipation flashed across Tang Huan's eyes, yet, his feet were as fast as lightning, approaching that streak of cyan rainbow at an incomparably shocking speed. At the eastern border of Luofu world, a cyan rainbow light whizzed upwards and pierced the sky like a giant pillar that supported the sky. Not far in front of this azure sky pillar stood a 10-meter-tall black arched door. The space within the arched door rippled unceasingly. From time to time, one or two figures would arrive and disappear into the black arched door. Most of these people were Demon Clan's people who had just left the Seven Planets God. After being randomly sent to the nearby regions, they were too lazy to head to the Wofu Sacred Mountain and rush there to return to the Azura's secret realm. Inside the Wofu world, day and night continued to alternate as the green-colored light shone within a radius of a few hundred meters. Whoosh, whiz. It was another dark night, and a faint sound suddenly pierced the void. 5 figures rushed out from the dark forest. The closer they got to the green pillar, the more distinct they became. The more they saw that the person charging at the very front was actually an extremely handsome man in white with a jade-like appearance, with scales covering his neck. It was obvious that he was a demonified from Demon Clan. Behind the white-clothed man, there was also a short black-clothed demonified person, 2 werewolfess, and a tree person. The 4 of them had red horns on their waists. They were obviously the demonic commanders of the 8th step of Demon Clan. Haha, we're finally here. A werewolf opened his bloody mouth, and started laughing non-stop. That Tang Huan, I don't know where he was teleported to by the 7 glorious star plate, but by the time he found out that we were no longer in the Luofu world, we might already be in the Abyss City, gulping down mouthfuls of wine and eating flesh. After entering the Azura's secret realm, you don't have to be afraid of that Tang Huan catching up. The treant spoke in a low unmuffled voice. What a joke. Are we even afraid of that Tang Huan? In this past year, not only has young master's strength increased greatly, our cultivations have also increased greatly. Let alone the fact that Tang Huan has no hope of catching up to him. Even if he did, we would be able to beat him to the point where even his mother wouldn't be able to recognize him. That's right, damn. That Tang Huan is too hateful. He actually killed so many of us that day. The other werewolf also had a sinister look in his eyes as he gnashed his teeth and said, otherwise, young master would not need to rush back to the Abyss City to explain it to the old man. The 5 figures drew closer and closer to the black arched gate. Hearing the voices of the 4 people around him, the man in white didn't say anything, but a cold smile appeared on his face. However, when they were only a dozen meters away from the arch, a black shadow suddenly flashed out from behind the arch. Fen Han, I've been waiting here for a long time. Chapter 407. Are you dead, or am I dead? Tang Huan. The white-clothed man was the young master of the Demon Clan, Fen Han. When he saw the figure opposite him, he suddenly stopped in his tracks, and the smile on his handsome face immediately froze. Behind Fen Han, the other 4 Class 8 magical commanders also stopped as a reflex. Their eyes flashed with surprise and bewilderment. The figure across from them at the arched door was actually the Tang Huan that they had just mentioned. Even though they spoke of Tang Huan with a disdainful tone, when they were facing Tang Huan at this moment, they felt a deep dread in their hearts. Whenever they saw Tang Huan, they would involuntarily think of the Demon Clan ranker's corpse that was lying on the ground deep in the valley a year ago. Tang Huan, why are you here? The short black-clothed demonified took a deep breath and said with a gloomy face. Inside the black arch door, there was only a constantly fluctuating void. There were no obstructions, but standing in front of the door, one would be unable to see the situation behind the arch door. If they had known earlier that Tang Huan was waiting here, they definitely wouldn't have rushed over like this. You guys will come, so I will naturally come. Tang Huan laughed coldly, a hint of happiness flashing through his eyes. He had been waiting here for 2 whole days. On the first day, Tang Huan hid himself in a nearby forest, and later, he saw that the people from the demon clan didn't even bother checking their surroundings, and directly rushed into the arch door. Thus, Tang Huan also moved his hiding spot to the back of the arch door. Tang Huan's original plan was to stay here and wait. If, within 10 days, Fen Han did not appear, then he would return to the Luofu Sacred Mountain. Since the world is so big, Fen Han could escape Luofu world, but not Tranquil Continent. If he was strong enough in the future, he could barge into Demon Clan and kill Fen Han. But what made Tang Huan even more surprised was that it was only the second day, yet Fen Han had already appeared. Tang Huan, quickly get out of the way. You can still be spared, or else, this will be your grave. The black-clothed demonized person growled out, but his expression showed traces of fear, and he said, "You must think carefully. This is not the time from a year ago." Mo Ding, I also give you a word. Scram. I can let you live. Otherwise, you can just die here. Tang Huan smirked. What arrogant words. I want to see if you will die or me die. The black-clothed demonified person's face alternated between red and white. He suddenly roared and shot forward explosively. His short and skinny body swelled like a balloon. When they were about 2 to 3 meters away from him, Mo Qianni had already turned into a muscular man who was more than 2 meters tall. The black robe on his body was astonishingly flexible, and actually expanded at a rapid pace as well, without any signs of being torn apart by his flesh body. Whoosh! Almost at the same time, the long blade in Mo Chio's hand also released a sharp black light, whizzing towards Tang Huan. The dark black blade flashed like lightning, and actually seemed to cut through the air, the powerful energy undulations continuously surging out from the blade's body. Whoosh! The corners of Tang Huan's mouth raised, and he suddenly shot forward, the dragon and phoenix lance in his hands immediately jumping up, bringing with it a brilliant luster as it flew towards the black long blade. At this moment, although the long spear was incredibly bright, the heat and power within it had been completely restrained. Tang Huan's dragon and phoenix spear seemed to have merged with the world, as it silently swept past the void. Clang! In the blink of an eye, the tip of the spear had already struck the edge of the long, dark blade. A terrifying power and heat instantly erupted like a volcano eruption. In the next moment, the scimitar left his hand and flew like a meteor dozens of meters away. The surrounding space seemed to have been shattered into pieces by the strength chi, as the terrifying heat burned even the space itself, causing a series of crackling sounds. Immediately after, he twisted the long spear, and the sharp spearhead appeared on the chest of the devil's chest like a nimble snake. The heat and strength had once again been thoroughly restrained. Ah! Mo Chio's face turned pale, as if he was scared out of his wits. But after a short moment, his cries had suddenly stopped. The spearhead of the dragon and phoenix lance had pierced through his chest, and a peerlessly ferocious force once again erupted, immediately crushing his massive body. Following that, the heat from the surging wave burned him into ashes. After the first shot, the peak of the 8th-step demon commander was already dead. Looking at this terrifying scene, no matter if it was young Lord Fen Han or the other 3 demon clans, they were all dumbstruck and dumbstruck. Tang Huan snorted from the corner of his nose, flicked the dragon and phoenix spear in his hands, and walked forward step by step. Ho! Immediately afterwards, an extremely terrifying imposing manner swept out from Tang Huan's body, and in a split second, filled up an area of a few dozen meters around. That aura was as majestic as a huge mountain and as vast as the ocean. It was mighty as the great sun and as powerful as the sun. Wherever it went, the sky and earth seemed to distort and ripple. This is the power of the martial saint. When Fen Han and the others came back to their senses, they were all terrified. At this time, they actually had a feeling that they were facing Yufian. 1 year ago, Tang Huan, who had just advanced to martial lord of the 8th step, was strong, but not strong enough to make them feel fear. But a year later, when they faced Tang Huan, who had an imposing aura that overflowed into the heavens, they felt an incomparable pressure. Even breathing had become difficult, and they couldn't help but feel powerless in their hearts. After staying in the 7 glorious star plate for a year, Tang Huan's strength had actually risen to a level that was comparable to Yu Fian's? Or could it be that he had already condensed some sort of seven glorious spirit body? Langzhen! Fen Han suddenly shouted in a low voice and looked at the werewolf at the side. It was obvious that he was extremely afraid of the devil. The devil was a dignified peak of the 8th step devil commander, but he could not even receive a single shot from Tang Huan. He was also a peak of the 8th step devil commander, and if he were to really rush up like this, he would probably end up like demon step. Awoo! Langzhen let out a sudden howl and shot forward. However, he had only moved 2 or 3 meters away when his figure suddenly shot to the side. He used almost all of his strength, and in an instant, Langzhen was already more than 10 meters away, but he still showed no signs of stopping. The remaining werewolf entrant suddenly woke up and fled into the distance at the same time. Do all of you want to die? Come back to me, young master. Not only did Langzhen and the other two not stop, but instead, they did not even look back as they ran even faster. Not long after, they had already entered the lush forest at the side of the road and disappeared. Fen Han, there's only the two of us left now. Tang Huan's eyes swept across the area. There was ridicule in his eyes, but he did not give chase. His gaze then fell on Fen Han, who was in front of him. Chapter 408. Tai Bai Spirit Body. Tang Huan, are you sure you want to kill us all? However, Tang Huan's approach meant that he no longer cared about them. He stared straight at Tang Huan and gritted his teeth as he said, "You are still carrying Mu Yan on your back. It is clear that she is not dead yet. Since she is still alive, there is no deep hatred between us. 1 year ago in that valley, many of my demon clan's experts died in your hands. Mu Yan was still alive today, which greatly exceeded Fen Han's expectations. He knew the power of his soul symbol. It was crafted by the demon lord Fen Tian himself. Although it was limited in strength and he was unable to fully unleash the power of the soul symbol last year, it was still not something Mu Yan could contend against. The fact that she could still hold out for so long after being hit was shocking enough. Who would have thought that after a year, she would still be alive? This caused Fen Hanji to be rather surprised. However, such a small bit of surprise was unable to dilute the humiliation and anger in his heart. As one of the two most powerful monarchs among all the monarchs, whether it was in the Tranquil Continent or the Azura's secret realm and this Luofu world, Fen Han was always mighty. Even the experts of Human Clan, Tian Clan, other than Yu Fian and King Ying, rarely dared to offend him. However, he was actually so humble in front of Tang Huan. As long as you are alive, this grudge will never be resolved. Tang Huan scoffed, his heart laughing coldly. The reason why Fen Han was acting so subservient right now was because he was strong enough. Otherwise, he would have charged towards him a long time ago. If she were to let him off now, once he found an opportunity in the future, he would definitely put her to death. Tang Huan, do you really think this young master is afraid of you? Fen Han could no longer hold it in as he glared fiercely at Tang Huan and roared with a flushed face. Since that's the case, then cut the crap. Tang Huan chuckled, his feet suddenly accelerating, his body shooting forward like a cannonball, the dragon and phoenix spear in his hand piercing out as fast as lightning. His spear moved soundlessly, but it was incomparably swift. After condensing the sun spirit body above the 7 glorious star plate, the reaction speed of Tang Huan's body had greatly increased, and his control over the genuine chi had especially reached an extremely shocking level. Roar! The black scales actually spread out at a speed that was difficult to catch with the naked eye. In a blink of an eye, Fen Han's entire body was covered by the scales, and immediately afterwards, the thick wolf teeth rod in his hand welcomed the long spear. Last time when he fought with Tang Huan in the valley, he suffered greatly. Now he had learned his lesson. The first thing he did after leaving the 7 glorious star plate was to find a weapon to carry with him. Being blocked by Tang Huan in this kind of place was indeed useful. The wolf-fanged mace was also as fast as lightning. Although the dark black-colored rod was not as bright as the dragon and phoenix spear that was activated by the genuine chi, an extremely terrifying power erupted from the wolf-fanged mace. With a poke, the strength chi rippled, as though it had created a hole in the air. Ding! In the blink of an eye, the dragon phoenix spear and wolf teeth mace forcefully collided, and a sharp screeching sound rang out in the air as the power erupted. A wave of energy that could be seen with the naked eye spread out in all directions from the point of collision, and the heat emitted from the explosion of the long spear also followed this wave as it swept out like a wave. In an instant, within a circumference of 20 to 30 meters, sand flew, rocks flew, and the sky changed color. In the next moment, Tang Huan and Fen Han retreated continuously. However, after only taking 2 steps back, Tang Huan had already stabilized his body, and once again shot forward explosively with a terrifying imposing manner, as if he had turned into a hurricane. In addition, on the spear in his hand, not only did the captivating scarlet flames appear, they also rapidly expanded, and in an instant, it seemed as though they had turned into a red sun formed from interweaving flames. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom! The long spear moved, the red sun roared towards Fen Han like a meteorite, the strength chi was like a tide, the heat waves churned and combined with the imposing chi that was condensed like a hurricane, it made the 5th form of spear technique, sun-scorching flame, appear even more powerful. Ho! Just as Fen Han, who had retreated 6 or 7 steps, stabilized his footing, Tang Huan's fearsome and violent attack had already arrived in front of him. With a low growl, the wolf teeth rod smashed into the incoming red sun once again. Bang! With an earth-shaking explosion, the mace landed on the red sun. For a moment, the neon light that filled the sky shattered, and the thick wolf tooth club was bounced up high. And after such a violent collision, the red sun that was wreathed in flames seemed to almost instantly shrink down by 1-fold. Yet it still fiercely shot forward like a hot knife through butter. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom! Fen Han involuntarily shot backwards, but that red sun had already exploded into countless specks of red light, completely annihilating his body. In the blink of an eye, Fen Han had heavily crashed into the ground over 10 meters away. His body covered in scales had actually smashed a huge crater into the ground, and the sand and soil had been lifted up by the strength chi as it landed on the ground. Tang Huan strode as if he was flying and activated the genuine chi to its limit. A layer of formless barrier seemed to cover her and Mu Yan, who was on her back inside, preventing them from getting any closer. In the pit in front of him, a figure actually stood up from the sand that had filled the sky. It was Fen Han, whose clothes had already turned into dust and his body was covered entirely in scales. However, what was strange was that the black scales on Fen Han's body had actually turned white, and they were emitting a thick metallic luster. Tang Huan, do you think that you're the only powerful one? Fen Han's eyes were ferocious as he laughed maniacally. On the 7 glorious star plate, this young master has successfully condensed the Taibai spirit body. My demon clan has a tyrannical body, and adding on this Taibai spirit body apostrophe, it is like adding wings to a tiger. Right now, my body is already indestructible, so what can you do to me? Before this, Fen Han was still a little worried, but after that strike just now, his confidence rose sharply. You actually obtained the Taibai spirit body? Tang Huan was a little surprised, but instantly raised his eyebrow and sneered. Fen Han, I'd like to see how many times your Taibai spirit body can withstand my attacks. Chapter 409, Soul Symbol. The moment he finished speaking, Tang Huan had already leaped forward and the dragon and phoenix lance in his hands once again soundlessly pierced through the void, piercing through it. Fen Han laughed wildly as he moved his body horizontally. However, the wolf-fanged mace that had already reached the high altitude smashed down with a thunderous roar. However, just as the spear was about to collide, Tang Huan's spear force suddenly changed. The long spear twisted like a snake, sticking close to the mace, and swept past from below. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom! In a split second, the wolf-fanged mace crashed onto the ground, creating a large crater as dust and sand surged up like smoke. Bam! But at almost the same time, Tang Huan's body suddenly neared, and his spear swept onto Fen Han's left waist, as a majestic genuine chi roared out, containing a terrifying heat. Ooh! Like a kite with its string cut, Fen Han howled as he flew backwards more than 20 meters while dragging the wolf-fanged mace. In an instant, another deep crater appeared on the ground, and another large amount of smoke and dust was expelled into the air. Immediately, Fen Han jumped out of the pit while laughing loudly. "Ha ha, Tang Huan, this young master is fine." But after a moment, Tang Huan arrived like a shadow, and his laughter also abruptly stopped. "Die!" He gnashed his teeth as he roared. That wolf-fanged mace of Fen Han's carried a cloud of dust and sand as it smashed towards the figure in front of him. Tang Huan coldly snorted in his heart as he pushed away the long spear. After the sound of an intense collision, the weapon in Fen Han's hand tilted to the side, but the dragon and phoenix spear had penetrated straight into the white scales on Fen Han's chest. That feeling felt as if it had stabbed into an incomparably hard iron ore. Ding! The sound of metal clashing resounded in the night sky. Ooh! Fen Han flew out once again as he let out another painful howl. Tang Huan did not pause at all. Spear after spear, every spear strike was like a ghost coming out of its cave, without a sound. But the power that erupted was incomparably tyrannical. Compared to Tang Huan's superb spear skill, Fen Han's wolf teeth rod was a little clumsy. After all, to the majority of Demon Clan, what they were most proficient in were not weapons, but weapons, which were tools to unleash the power of their flesh body. If one's strength was strong enough, even if their methods were simple and crude, they could still take down 10 places with a single strike. But now, Fen Han's strength was slightly weaker than Tang Huan's. Under these circumstances, Fen Han's crude and simple methods became his own weakness. Thus, amidst the intense collision sounds, Fen Han's heart-wrenching howls could be heard from time to time. Under the night sky, in front of the arch, Tang Huan's spear would either stab or smash and sweep, repeatedly blasting Fen Han's body into the air. The number of craters on the ground continued to increase. In the forest more than 100 meters away, the 3 Demon Clan experts who had escaped earlier were already gathered together. Seeing the scene before the Black Arch door, their hearts jumped in fear. Tang Huan was strong enough, if not for the 7 glorious star plate condensing the white spirit body, he would have died countless of times over by now. "Tang Huan, you can't kill me." After being swept away by the dragon and phoenix spear once again, Fen Han, who had climbed out of the pit, actually hoarsely laughed in satisfaction. "I've played with you for such a long time, it's time for this young master to take his leave." While talking, Fen Han directly turned and rushed towards the Black Arch door, as if he did not care about Tang Huan, who was more than 10 meters away. "Is that so?" Tang Huan squinted his eyes. The corner of his mouth revealed a ridiculing smile, and then, the spear in his hand swung out, and the flames on the spear tip started to expand. An instant later, with an earth-shaking boom, a ball that was like a red sun roared at Fen Han's back while dragging a long streak of flames. It actually set off an abnormally fierce and scorching storm. At this moment, Tang Huan unleashed the 5th form of the spear technique, Sunny Flames. "Tang Huan, don't waste your energy." Fen Han laughed out loud. His footsteps didn't stop as he swung the mace backwards. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. Amidst the sounds of intense collisions, the strength chi churned and Fen Han was actually unable to hold on any longer. The wolf-fanged mace left his hand, and in the next moment, that rapidly shrinking red sun crashed onto Fen Han's back. After a loud bang, Fen Han's body, which was already covered by countless red lights, was immediately thrown forward. While he was in midair, Fen Han involuntarily let out a miserable cry. A moment later, Fen Han, who had fallen more than 20 meters away, stood up from the pit he had just smashed. His body was actually trembling slightly as he looked through the dust and sand that had been kicked up into the air. "Fen Han, do you really think that with the Tabai spirit body, you can remain invulnerable?" Tang Huan strode forward as he took in Fen Han's condition. He could not help but sneer. "No matter how strong your body is, it has its limits, and your Tabai spirit body is no exception. After receiving so many shots from me, you still think that nothing is wrong? It's really childish." "Tang Huan, you..." Fen Han was shocked and angry at the same time. He had not finished speaking when he spat out a mouthful of blood. In an instant, his eyes turned incomparably fierce. "Do you think this young master cannot do anything to you?" Before he finished speaking, Fen Han's mouth suddenly opened wide. He flicked his tongue and a black streak of light the size of a walnut flashed out. Tang Huan's footsteps slightly paused. When that black light appeared, he immediately felt a strange soul fluctuation. In the next moment, a thought flashed through his mind. Soul symbol? He suddenly recalled that after a year, Fen Han could activate his soul symbol again, and more than a year had passed since he used his soul symbol to attack Mu Yan. "That's right, it's precisely my foster father's soul talisman apostrophe. Tang Huan, this was all forced by you." Fen Han swept Tang Huan with his venomous gaze. "Go." Both palms struck out, and an incomparably terrifying wave of energy swept forward like raging waves. It was an incredibly powerful soul force that was actually shooting forward like a sharp awl. The speed was so fast that no one had any time to dodge or evade. In the next moment, Tang Huan felt as if an extremely large meteorite collided with his soul with a loud bang, and a burst of terrifying power started to wreak havoc. But at the same time, an incomparably tyrannical sword intent also exploded forth. After a short moment, the deepest part of Tang Huan's soul seemed to have been stirred up by violent winds and waves. The attacks of the soul symbols are indeed formidable. Tang Huan's mind slightly stirred, however. The invading soul force was ultimately still completely shattered by the sword intent that erupted from his soul. As if he had flicked his finger, Tang Huan had already woken up. He looked over and saw that Fen Han was rushing towards the black arch door. "Don't run!" Tang Huan roared out. The long spear in his hand had already shot out. After that, he dashed forward even more desperately. In the blink of an eye, Tang Huan's dragon and phoenix lance had already chased after Fen Han as they charged into the black arch door. The long spear was bounced back, and from within the arch came a faint, mournful scream. Chapter 410, Yu Fian vs Shen Shan. Whoosh! Tang Huan's body moved like lightning as he grabbed the dragon and phoenix lance in his hands. Blood could clearly be seen on the tip of the spear. The moment Fen Han's body entered the range of the arch door, the sharp tip of the dragon and phoenix spear pierced into his back. When the dragon phoenix spear was repelled by the arch, Fen Han had already thoroughly merged into the arch, vanishing without a trace in a flash. If it was outside the arch, with the long spear in Tang Huan's hand, Fen Han would definitely die with a single strike that pierced through his flesh body. But just now, the dragon and phoenix spears were thrown out by Tang Huan, so their power was greatly reduced. Furthermore, Fen Han had condensed the Taibai spirit body, so even if he was injured, the endurance of his body wasn't something that could be compared to a year ago. This made it even more difficult for Tang Huan to be sure that Fen Han was actually still alive. However, even if Fen Han did not die, his flesh body would definitely be heavily injured, and he would definitely not be able to recover so easily. "Fen Han, if you're dead, then forget it. If you're not dead," Tang Huan suddenly sneered, and looked towards the forest on the left in the blink of an eye. "If Fen Han doesn't die, then go back and tell him that it would be best to obediently be his turtle's hide for the rest of his life. Don't let me know, otherwise, he wouldn't be as lucky as he is today." With that said, Tang Huan did not wait for any response and flew off towards the west. In the forest, the three experts from Demon Clan looked at each other, seeing the shock and fear in each other's eyes that was hard to hide. When Tang Huan's figure completely disappeared from their sight, the three of them heaved a sigh of relief. "Tell me, is Fen Han dead?" After a long while, the tree finally spoke in a low voice. "It's hard to say." The two werewolves shook their heads almost at the same time as they smiled bitterly. They wished that Fen Han would be completely killed by Tang Huan's spear. Once Fen Han died, they would naturally be able to relax. However, if Fen Han was still alive, then they would have to suffer greatly in the future. They had abandoned Fen Han and fled. With Fen Han's personality, how could he let them off so easily? I really didn't expect that a year ago, Yu Fian had actually stepped across the last heaven stairway and entered the Spirit Extreme Holy Palace, and after climbing onto the 7 glorious star plate, he had condensed a Red Wanderer spirit body. This woman is the same as Tang Huan. She is also someone who has been favored by the heavens. At the foot of the Wofu Saint Mountain, within a tent in the Tian clan's residential area, King Ying couldn't help but exclaim. The news about Yufian reaching the summit of the Wofu Sacred Mountain and entering the Extreme Spirit Palace should have come from the human clan, so it shouldn't be fake. Even though she knew that it was only a matter of time before Yufian crossed the last heaven stairway, when she found out that she had really taken that step, her emotions were still complicated. One had to know that when she had just entered the Wofu world 2 years ago, she had had the thought of going head-to-head with Yufian. Of course, until today, those thoughts from back then had already disappeared like smoke into thin air. Competing with such a monster like Yufian, he was completely asking for trouble. Sister Yingqing, you are not any worse than Yufian. You have condensed the Chenxing spirit body this time. On the other side, a beautiful female Tian clan dressed in black said with a smile that was like flowers, Red Wanderer is the fire and Chenxing is the water. This is especially used to restrain her. Ye Kaiyu, don't comfort me. Kening laughed, then asked curiously, oh right, who are the people who obtain the other spirit bodies? Do you know? It's pretty much clear. Ye Kaiyu laughed happily, other than Sister Ying, who obtained the Chenxing spirit body, and Yufian, who obtained the Red Wanderer spirit body. Tang Huan obtained the Sun spirit body. Fen Han obtained the Tabai spirit body. A guy named Shi Jian from the Demon Clan obtained the Star-suppressing spirit body, and the one who obtained the Star spirit body was Mu Ming Mao from our Tian Clan, and the one who obtained the Extreme Yin spirit body is a human clan female martial warriors. I think her name is Shan Shan. Shan Shan? Kening wrinkled her brows and said with some shock, this name seems to be rather unfamiliar. Those who obtained the Extreme Yin spirit body would definitely be the ones who killed the star beasts, passed the 7 planets space exam first, and exposed the 7 planets god. Kening had thought that the person who would be able to achieve this would be one of the top experts among the 3 clans' younger generation. She hadn't expected that he would be such an unknown character. Ye Kaiyu laughed. It is said that she entered the human clan's spirit realm a year ago, and she immediately charged into the top 9 rankings of the heavenly spirit ranking the moment she arrived. Her strength is extremely strong, and even Liu Qian, who is ranked 5th on the heavenly spirit ranking, does not dare to make a move against her. Oh, Kening muttered to herself, a 20-something-year-old martial lord of the 8th step. This is already extremely rare in human clan. Her reputation had always been insignificant, so she must have had some other reason. Previous chapter, Table of Contents, Mountain Name, Could it be what? Ye Kaiyu said in a daze. Within the Glory Continent, the Glory Sacred Temple is surnamed Shan, and its current master is said to be an extremely young woman. Kening smiled. Sister Kening, you mean she? Ye Kaiyu was startled. For now, it's just a guess. Kening shook her head and smiled. Ye Kaiyu, have you seen that Shan Shan before? No. Ye Kaiyu's expression suddenly became rather strange. However, the news about her and Yufian has already spread here. I heard that the moment Shan Shan arrived at the vicinity of the Wofu Holy Mountain, he met Yufian. The two of them didn't exchange much words, and left together, saying that they were going to have a great battle. Isn't it normal to spar with each other? Kening was speechless. It's not a normal sparring session between the two of them. I heard that when the two of them left, their expressions were extremely unsightly. Listening to Ye Kaiyu's words, Kening couldn't help but be stunned. The two most talented girls in human clan were actually enemies, so much so that they had to fight as soon as they met. Sister Yingqing, Tang Huan is here. At this moment, a petite and exquisite-looking talented girl barged into the tent. Her anxious voice woke Kening and Ye Kaiyu from their stupor. He is finally back. Quick, invite him in. Kening stood up with a smile on her face, and with a flash, she left the tent. With a sweep of her eyes, a familiar figure entered her vision, a slender figure with a spear in hand, carrying a woman in red with long hair on her back, and a tiny rainbow spirit mouse on her head. That person was Tang Huan. His figure was as fast as lightning as he rushed over from 10 meters away. He was extremely fast. In just 1 or 2 leaps, he had already landed gently in front of the tent. Chapter 411, Two Tigress. During this year, Ms. Mu Yan's condition did not worsen at all, especially her body, which did not shrivel at all. The care and treatment of Brother Tang Huan was extremely good. Inside the tent, Kening sat down once again, and said while smiling, "Zizi." The 7-colored spirit mouse patted its chest with its 2 little claws and revealed a complacent expression, as if it was saying that it was doing it for its own sake. Seeing that, Tang Huan laughed unknowingly. He raised his hand and pinched the 7-colored spirit mouse's thin mouth. It is indeed all this little fellow's effort. During the entire year inside the sun space, the 7-colored spirit mice would constantly feed Mu Yan the true fire spirit spring. Only then was her body completely filled with vitality. After more than 300 days, the true fire spirit spring in the gourd had almost been completely used up. "Lady Kening, I'll leave my friend to you." After a slight pause, Tang Huan looked at Kening and asked, "Brother Tang Huan, don't worry, the moment we return to this place, I had already asked some people to return back to Holy Spirit Continent. I reckon that in a few days, she would come over with a Universe Spirit Ring. When that time comes, I will personally send Miss Mu Yan to see her elder-in-law. When you come to Holy Spirit Continent, I will ensure that the person you will meet will be a lively Miss Mu Yan." Kening's beautiful eyes slightly narrowed, and her beautiful face revealed an enchanting smile. "Thank you, Ms. Kening." Tang Huan bowed to King Ying. After about half a quarter of an hour, Tang Huan walked out of the tent. If Tian Clan was truly willing to help, the injuries on Mu Yan's soul would definitely heal completely. Unfortunately, more than a year's time had already passed, and the time limit agreed upon in the old fatty's letter was almost up. If not, they could have gone through the Universe Ring and headed to Tian Clan together. Now, the matter of going to Tian Clan could only be discussed after meeting the old fatty. Tang Huan quickly composed himself, but when he walked out of the Tian Clan residence area, he could not help but be stunned. Liu Qianyi, Yang Dong and Meng Zhao were actually guarding outside, while Liu Qianyi paced back and forth like an ant on a hot pan, sighing from time to time. "Brother Liu, you guys." Tang Huan could not help but speak. Before he finished speaking, Liu Qianyi took a few steps forward and shouted anxiously, "Brother Tang Huan, you finally came out. Did you know that Yufian and Shen Shan are fighting?" "What?" Tang Huan was stunned. She then realized, her face could not help but change. "Brother Liu, when did this happen?" He knew from the start that Shen Shan and Yufian's relationship was not that good. Now, looking at Liu Qianyi's expression, he knew that the two of them were not just exchanging pointers. Yufian was already an expert at the peak of the 8th stage and his strength was tyrannical. He could probably compete with ordinary stage 9 martial saint. Although it had only been a little more than a year since Shen Shan had advanced to martial lordess of the 8th step, she had already condensed a extreme yin spirit body at the 7 glorious star plate. Her strength was probably already at the peak of the 8th step now, and with divine armaments peacock bloom, her strength should not be much weaker than Yufian's. Tang Huan believed that even if they were to fight, they would not truly take each other's lives. If there was a huge disparity in strength between the two sides, then the battle between the two wouldn't be too dangerous. After all, the strongest side could completely control the situation. However, if the two sides were equally strong, then it would be even more dangerous. Under such circumstances, neither of them would be able to hold back. Any one of these accidents could cause serious damage to one side and could even potentially threaten one's life. Almost 2 hours. Liu Qianyi smiled bitterly. It's been 2 hours and the yellow flower has cooled down. Tang Huan's face became even more ugly. It's already been so long. Yufian and Shan Shan must have already determined the winner. Brother Liu, why didn't you stop for a bit? Who can stop them? Liu Qianyi said depressingly. Moreover, when they left, they even said that no one is allowed to follow them secretly. So, when we found out you were back, We came looking for you. You have a good relationship with Shen Shan, and Yufian is your senior sister. Go over there and see. Even if they found out, they wouldn't do anything to you." Yang Dong and Meng Xiao nodded in agreement and sighed as they shook their heads. Which way did they go? Tang Huan was too lazy to waste his words. "Over there." Liu Qian, Yang Dong, and Meng Xiao simultaneously pointed to the west side of the Luofu Sacred Mountain. After a long while, these two women are simply tigers. In the forest, Tang Huan ran quickly, feeling a headache coming on. Zizi. On Tang Huan's shoulder, the seven-colored spirit mouse nodded its head vigorously with an expression of agreement. "What tigress do you know?" Tang Huan couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. Before he left, he intentionally went back to the Kinning camp, and called the rainbow spirit mouse over from Mu Yan's side. Bringing the little guy along would make tracking them much easier, since Yufian, Shen Shan and the others wouldn't be able to move in a straight line. Sure enough, not long after, the two of them started to veer off from each other. Whoosh! Under the guidance of the seven-colored spirit mouse, Tang Huan seemed to know his way around. After more than an hour, Tang Huan finally saw a few trees that had exploded and a few narrow ravines. This was very likely the result of Shen Shan and Yufian's battle. The trail became even more obvious after continuing onwards for several hundred meters, and in this area with a radius of dozens of meters, not a single complete tree could be seen. A thick layer of the ground seemed to have been lifted, and the ground was filled with deep crevices that were disorderly. Do they have such a huge grudge? Why is the battle so intense? Just by looking at these marks, Tang Huan was secretly shocked. In the battle before, Shen Shan and Yufian had most likely used their full strength, otherwise, they would not have left such scars. They didn't know where they were going, so they didn't want to be in any real danger. "Little brat, where did they go?" Tang Huan was worried, and shouted out, "Zizi!" The seven-colored spirit mouse immediately jumped down from Tang Huan's shoulder, and quickly swam to the side of the region. It would stop from time to time, its sharp nose twitching. After around a dozen of breaths, the little guy screamed and beckoned with his little claws at Tang Huan, then took the lead and scuttled out. Whoosh! Tang Huan's body was like a ray of light. His speed was unbelievably fast. In just a few breaths of time, he had already caught up to the seven-colored spirit mouse. However, not long after, Tang Huan's expression could not help but change. He actually saw a corpse, and it was the corpse of a werewolf of the 8th step. The wound on his chest was completely charred black, and it was obvious that it was a fire-type weapon. Chapter 412, Lightning Burning. Ancient trees towered in the dark deep ravine. The dim light made it look rather eerie and terrifying. Ha ha, ha ha. Suddenly, a loud and rough laugh resonated through the air. "Yufian, Shen Shan, although both of you are stage 9 martial saint, you have suffered heavy injuries on both sides, with less than 10% of your strength remaining. If you are willing to cripple your cultivation, not only will I spare your lives, I can also send someone to escort you to the spirit realm in the western part of the Luofu world. If not, don't blame me for being ruthless." He was 3 meters tall, and was incomparably tall and sturdy. His eyes also flickered with a faint golden luster, but at this moment, his eyes were filled with a violent and vicious malevolent killing intent. His entire body was surrounded by a frightening might. Under a huge tree 20 to 30 meters away from the golden-furred bearman, 2 figures could vaguely be seen. One was red and the other black. Around them, there were dozens of figures, but they all stuck their heads out and hid behind the trees. "Fenlei, don't be so naughty over there. If you want to make a move, don't hide your head and show your tail, just come over here." Yufian laughed out loud, the halberd in her hand pointed straight at the golden bear man named Fenlei. An astonishing imposing chi whistled out from her beautiful and graceful body. "Waste your own cultivation? How laughable, young master demon clan, are all these brainless idiots?" Shan Shan laughed crisply, his words full of ridicule and ridicule. "Yufian, Shan Shan, do you know what this is?" His palm brushed past his waist, and a black object immediately appeared at the tip of his finger. It was flat and round, about the size of a walnut, and it emitted a dense black luster. From afar, it looked like a small black hole, as if it wanted to swallow all the surrounding light. Soul symbol? Yu Fian snorted coldly. It's a soul rune. Fen Lei laughed sinisterly. In the end, he arrived a step too late within the Taibai space. Taibai spirit body was taken away by Fen Hanshai, yet he was unwilling to return to Tranquil Continent just like this. Thus, after leaving the Seven Glorious Star Plate and returning to the Wofu Sacred Mountain, he immediately gathered a lot of people to head over. He had originally wanted to capture the Amethyst King Snake, but unexpectedly, he couldn't find the fierce beast, and discovered that both Yu Fian and Shan Shan were injured. Especially since the two of them were already stage 9 martial saint. With their young age and their strength being so tyrannical, if they were allowed to grow any further, they would become the great enemies of Demon Clan in the future. Now that he had finally encountered such a good opportunity, how could Fen Lei let it go? If he could kill these two genius girls who were the most outstanding among the young generation of Human Clan, his position in the Demon Clan would definitely be stabilized. Even if Fen Han had already obtained the Taibai spirit body, he still wouldn't be able to win against him. Therefore, he immediately changed his mind and surrounded Yu Fian and Shan Shan. However, what he did not expect was that even though Shan Shan and his opponent were both injured, both of them still possessed tyrannical strength. Several demonic commanders of the 8th step had died along the way, and one of them was even a Eagleman at the peak of the 8th step. I originally didn't want to use this soul symbol apostrophe, but since you're courting death, then I won't be polite. One is the granddaughter of Pavilion Master of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the other is the current master of the Glory Sacred Temple. His status is noble, and it is hard to tell the difference between the two, but there's only one soul symbol. Which one of you should I use on? Evil creature, it's better to leave it for yourself to enjoy. Suddenly, a thunder-like explosive shout burst out in the gloomy forest. Fen Lei was startled, and suddenly turned around to look. Within his line of sight, a black shadow had actually appeared like a ghost, and was actually less than 10 meters away from him. But before he could see the face of the black figure clearly, a red light rapidly expanded in his pupils, similarly without a sound. Roar! Fen Lei no longer had the time to activate the soul symbol. He angrily roared, stuffed it into his waist with one hand, and with the other hand he raised the long blade on the ground, and with lightning speed he welcomed the red light. The golden blade's width was as wide as a door, tearing through the void, provoking a sharp roar, as a sharp intent immediately filled the air, as if a gigantic mountain was directly in front of him, and could also be cut into two halves by the blade. Clang! The long blade in Fen Lei's hand was actually bounced high up, and his other hand also hurriedly grabbed onto the hilt. This was why he didn't let it fly out of his hand. However, when the weapons fiercely collided, a fierce heat wave whistled from the opposite side. Fen Lei felt as if his body was going to melt, and couldn't help but continuously retreat. Almost at the same time, the red light merely lowered itself slightly and wiggled like a snake. It came whistling over again. Its speed was as fast as an arrow leaving a bow, and it was still as silent as before. Fen Lei's expression changed grayly. When he finally steadied his steps, that red light was already within reach. In a rush, Fen Lei swung his arm, and the long blade appeared horizontally in front of his chest. Ding! In the blink of an eye, the sharp red light had already pierced the broad body of the blade with an irresistible force. The power that contained a terrifying heat once again roared out with a power that could topple mountains and overturn the seas. Fen Lei let out a stuffy groan, and immediately flew backwards with his blade in hand. His sturdy body flew like a cloud and landed heavily on a large tree after passing through a dozen meters of space. The tree trunk that not even a person could carry instantly exploded, and the upper part of the branches and leaves on the tree crashed down. Whoosh! The black figure was like a ray of light, traversing over 10 meters in the blink of an eye, and quickly arriving in front of Shan Shan and Yu Fian. Tang Huan, junior brother Tang Huan. Seeing his face, both Shan Shan and Yu Fian were pleasantly surprised. Tang Huan. Almost at the same time, cries of surprise sounded out from the surroundings. All of them were Demon Clan experts that they had met before, and had even fought with Tang Huan in the valley. Tang Huan, nearby. Fen Lei slowly stood up and wiped away the traces of blood from the corner of his lips. A trace of surprise and fury flashed through his bell-like eyes. He had heard of Tang Huan's name countless of times, but he never thought that he would suddenly appear here. He was powerful as expected. Not only did he quietly approach his body, he was even caught unprepared, and injured his internal organs. He is the Tang Huan who had fused with the Nirvana sacred fire. Was he the one who killed 20 or 30 of our demon clan's people a year ago? Damn, why is he everywhere? At this time, surprised cries came from the surroundings. Behind the trees, many experts of Demon Clan looked over, their eyes filled with surprise and fear. Chapter 413 says no. Shan Shan, senior sister Fian. How are you guys? Tang Huan's eyes quickly swept across Shan Shan and Yu Fian's bodies. Although there weren't any injuries on their outside, based on the fluctuations of their auras, they were able to determine that both of their internal organs had been severely injured, and that the two women's attacks were quite ruthless. I'm fine. Shan Shan and Yu Fian shook their heads at the same time. Once they said that, they looked at each other, and snorted at the same time. After a moment, Shan Shan seemed to have thought of something and furrowed her brows. Tang Huan, why do you call her senior sister? Since when did this woman become your senior sister? Tang Huan and I are both from Weapon Refiner and we are also older than him, so we entered the Tools Method Hall earlier than him, so of course we're his senior sisters. Yu Fian cast a sidelong glance at Shan Shan. Her beautiful phoenix eyes actually held a little complacency in them. What a joke. What qualifications do you have to be Tang Huan's senior sister? Shan Shan said as he sneered. Tang Huan has fused with one of the 5 great spiritual fires, Nirvana sacred fire, and what you have fused with is just ordinary true fire. Tang Huan obtained 108 sword seal from Mazi's Sword Valley, and you haven't even been to the Sword Crafting Valley yet, but in the Tools Method Hall, Tang Huan stayed 36 days and you have only stayed 20-odd days. From the Stage 1 martial disciple to the martial lord of the 8th step, Tang Huan has only cultivated for less than a year and you are still only a martial lord of the 8th step. Shan Shan was like fried popcorn. He spouted out such a long string, causing Tang Huan to be dumbstruck. How could she have such sharp tongue? You're right. Yu Fian squinted her phoenix eyes slightly. Junior brother Tang Huan, why don't I suppress my cultivation and spar with you? If I win, you will still be my junior brother, and if you win, I can just call you senior brother. Alright, let's do it. As he finished speaking, Yu Fian actually smacked his hand across his chest in delight. Yu Fian, do you still have any shame? Shan Shan gnashed his teeth. Hey, Shan Shan, why are you so excited? Yu Fian swept a glance at Shan Shan, and curled his lips. What does the name Tang Huan and I have to do with you? You. Shan Shan was speechless. Haha, I got it. Don't tell me you like this junior brother Tang Huan of mine. Yu Fian's shiny, black eyes rolled around, and then laughed out loud. Yo, if I remember correctly, a certain woman had confidently said at the time that she would never get married unless she found her elder brother. Why is it that she can't hold it in anymore? Nonsense. Yu Fian, shut your stinky mouth. Shan Shan's beautiful face instantly turned red, and she became incomparably angry and embarrassed. I'm so angry from embarrassment. It seems like I've really hit the mark. Haha. The surrounding Demon Clan experts were all dumbstruck when they saw this scene. At the beginning, Shan Shan and Shan Shan had fought until the sky was blurry, as though they wished to kill the other party. But the moment they appeared, these two women who seemed to have deep grudges against the same enemy joined hands to defend the enemy, but when Tang Huan appeared, they started to curse and bicker again. Enough, are you done talking? Tang Huan's face became darker and darker. After a while, he could no longer endure it any longer and suddenly shouted out in anger, I'm finished, let's stay here and rest. How could these two women still have the mood to bicker at a time like this? If it were any other place, they would have argued and scolded as they pleased. However, couldn't they have quieted down a bit here? There were still many young experts of Demon Clan around. eyeing them covetously like tigers stalking their prey, especially that guy called Fen Lei. Even if it was Fen Han who had already condensed his Tabai spiritual body, he still wouldn't be Fen Lei's match. Being yelled at by Tang Huan like that, both Shan Shan and Shan Shan were stunned. Tang Huan no longer paid any attention to them. His eyes turned, and his gaze landed on Fen Lei, who was not far away, as a terrifying aura swept out from his body like a collapsing embankment and a torrential wave. In an instant, a terrifying oppressive feeling filled a radius of several tens of meters. This was clearly the might of the human clanness. The expressions of the surrounding experts all changed from shock. After staying in the Seven Glorious Star Plate for a year and condensing the Sun Spirit body, Tang Huan's strength had already reached such a terrifying level. This was completely comparable to Yu Fian, who had not been promoted to Stage 9 Martial Saint a year ago. Yu Fian could no longer stand to bicker with Shan Shan. Her beautiful eyes brightened as she praised, "Junior brother Tang Huan is truly amazing. You've comprehended force so quickly." Tang Huan estimates that it won't be long before he will become a Stage 9 Martial Saint. Shan Shan was also excited. "Tang Huan, looks like I can't underestimate you anymore." Immediately after, his originally burly and robust body actually expanded once again. In just a blink of an eye, his 3-meter-tall body had grown 1 meter taller, making him look like an ancient beast. "Kill!" In the next moment, Fen Lei roared out, and actually forcefully withstood Tang Huan's frightening aura, waved his long blade, and charged forward. Although it was not a leveled-up weapon, and he did not have the genuine chi to activate it, the long blade in his hand still unleashed an incomparable amount of power. Whoosh! Amidst the wild howls, the blade tore through the air and swept across like a tornado. Tang Hua tilted his body and stepped forward, his spear thrusting forward like a shooting star. Clang! With an explosive sound, the blade and spear quickly separated. But after a short moment, the impact of Fen Lei's violent impact seemed to have been forcibly dispersed by him. The long blade that leaped up actually came crashing down once again. The power of this slash was not the least bit weaker than before. Tang Huan's brows slightly rose as the dragon and phoenix lance once again lashed out, but he was a little surprised in his heart. After the body of this burning thunder expanded, the power he could unleash was actually not the least bit inferior to the genuine chi that he had activated to the extreme. At this moment, the current burning thunder could completely be compared to an ordinary Stage 9 Martial Saint. In a second, Tang Huan understood that this fellow was definitely a strong opponent. Fortunately, they had met him now, otherwise, Tang Huan would not be his match a year ago. It was fortunate that he did not condense any spirit bodies, otherwise, Tang Huan would probably not be his match at the moment. However, even though Fen Lei was strong, Tang Huan wasn't afraid in the slightest. In his chest, his fighting spirit instead boiled over. Clang! After another earth-shaking ringing sound, Tang Huan's dragon phoenix spear and Fen Lei's thick and long blade separated once more, but in an instant, they struck out at a speed that was difficult to be caught by the naked eye. Chapter 414 Immortal Body. Clang! Clang! Intense sounds of collisions rose one after another. The dragon and phoenix spear and the long blade continuously clashed against each other. The violent and ferocious strength chi wreaked havoc, constantly tearing the trees to pieces. The terrifying heat spread like raging waves, and this small area seemed to have become a furnace. Regardless of whether it was Tang Huan or burning thunder, they both had already displayed their methods to the fullest. In the darkness of the deep ravine and forest, only two figures could be seen moving quickly like lightning. Many after-images were being revealed, but they were immediately smashed by the strength chi. At this point, it was already impossible to completely distinguish their faces. They could only vaguely determine which one was Tang Huan and which one was Fen Lei through the use of weapons. Shan Shan and Yu Fian couldn't help but reveal a grave expression between their brows. Fen Lei's strength was also a little beyond their expectations. The surrounding demon clan experts were all dazzled by the sight. All of their attention was completely focused on the battle, although they also wanted to take this opportunity to kill the two of them, but they did not have the guts to. After all, no one knew how much power the two of them still had left. Let's wait and see the result of Fen Lei and Tang Huan's match. If Tang Huan won, then forget about it. If Fen Lei won, then use the soul symbol and kill one of the two, then it would be easy. Clang! After another explosive sound, Tang Huan and Fen Lei both retreated several meters at almost the same time. However, both of them were panting. Just now, that violent, storm-like battle had already consumed a lot of their energy, especially Fen Lei, whose palms had already been shattered. Burning thunder, how does it feel? He lifted his hand to swipe it, and he couldn't help but laugh out loud. You are indeed much stronger than that Fen Han, but unfortunately, the one who obtained the Tai Bai spirit body was him, and not you. Otherwise, I really wouldn't have been able to do anything to you. Right now, your internal organs have already been severely injured, so you will probably only need at most another 10 strikes. Your life will probably end here. Tang Huan, your father's internal organs are injured. How are you feeling? Fen Lei let out a ferocious roar. He was very clear about the reason behind Tang Huan's sudden words. With his internal organs being injured, if Tang Huan's following attack was as powerful as before, it would be difficult for him to receive another 10 strikes. However, if he was scared to the point of running, he might not even be able to take 2 shots. Fen Lei, have you forgotten that I condensed the sun spirit body in the 7 glorious star plate? Tang Huan sized up Fen Lei in ridicule, but in his heart, he was also surging with shock. Now, he finally understood the greatest beauty of the sun spirit body. During this fierce battle with Fen Lei, his internal organs had indeed been injured multiple times. However, every time he was injured, he could feel his internal organs constantly squirming. Just like the last attack just now, his internal organs were injured again, but before he finished speaking, his internal organs had already returned to normal. It was precisely because of this that Tang Huan wasn't injured too badly. Otherwise, his internal injuries definitely wouldn't have been weaker than Fen Lei's. However, the miraculous effect of Sun Spirit Body made Tang Huan exclaim in his heart. To be able to recover immediately from an injury, wouldn't that mean that he was immortal? What? The expression in Fen Lei's eyes changed drastically. He had long known that Tang Huan had obtained the Sun Spirit Body, but he had forgotten about this during his exchange with Tang Huan. Now that Tang Huan had mentioned it, he was suddenly jolted awake, and both shock and anger welled up in his chest. With the Sun Spirit Body, Tang Huan's internal injuries were definitely not as severe. Puff! In a split second, Fen Lei could no longer hold back the surging blood energy, and a large mouthful of blood sprayed out. A good chance. Tang Huan's eyes lit up. He had been waiting for such an opportunity. In the next moment, the dragon and phoenix spear in his hand shot out like a meteor, and he immediately executed the 4th form of the flaming rainbow spear art, sunset flames. Strength Chi whistled, the heat wave churned, and in a blink of an eye, a red sun had already condensed on the tip of the dragon and phoenix spear. Go! Fen Lei let out a furious roar, and that pitch-black soul symbol had already appeared at the tip of his finger. The black light exploded and an extremely terrifying aura rippled out in front of him. Following that, an incomparably berserk soul force shot out like a sharp awl, causing even the space around them to begin to tremble intensely. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom! A storm raged within Tang Huan's soul. After a few days, he once again endured the soul attack brought about by this soul symbol. Moreover, because Fen Lei's strength was stronger than Fen Han's, the power that he exploded out when he activated the soul symbol was also quite a bit stronger than Fen Han's. This kind of strength was enough to heavily injure an ordinary stage 9 martial saint. Tang Huan, you brought this upon yourself. Fen Lei laughed heartily. However, after that instant, his laughter suddenly stopped. His pair of copper bell-like eyes were also filled with shock that was difficult to conceal. He suddenly realized, although Tang Huan's soul was under berserk attacks, his attacks did not show any signs of breaking down. Ho! The red sun was like a meteorite falling from the sky, dragging a long flame as it roared out from the tip of Tang Huan's spear. In a split second, it was less than a meter away from burning thunder, and the blazing heat seemed to want to ignite the void itself. This kind of situation was completely outside of Fenlei's expectations, and he was simply unable to defend himself in time. In a panic, he let out a wild roar, and pounced to the side. Bam! Unfortunately, the burning thunder was still a moment too late. That round red sun instantly fell on his left shoulder and crazily exploded outwards. As if struck by an enormous rock, the burning thunder was involuntarily sent flying backwards, while its massive body was completely engulfed by the red light that filled the sky, completely annihilating it. Plop! In the blink of an eye, Fenlei heavily smashed into the ground, sand and dust violently sputtered out, and a deep hole immediately revealed itself. After flicking his finger, Fenlei shakily crawled back up. His body was already charred black, and his skin was lacerated. However, before he could jump out of the pit, a blazing red light penetrated the hazy dust and pierced Fenlei's chest with lightning speed. Immediately after, Tang Huan's figure appeared in Fenlei's line of sight. "You, why are you?" A few difficult words were squeezed out from Fenlei's throat, and his eyes were filled with disbelief and disbelief. Bam! However, before Fenlei finished speaking, the long spear in Tang Huan's hand shook, and his burly body exploded apart, disappearing like fireworks. Chapter 415, Soul Seal. Young Master Fenlei dead? Furthermore, he was killed by Tang Huan after activating the soul symbol. The soul talisman personally formed by the demon lord Fentian actually had no effect on Tang Huan. All of a sudden, the demon clan experts were all extremely shocked. The entire area had sunk into a deathly silence. As the smoke and dust dissipated, Tang Huan's figure became clearer and clearer. Numerous gazes fell on Tang Huan. The shock in the hearts of everyone could not be described with mere words. Just a moment ago, they seemed to have been evenly matched, but in the next instant, they had already decided on life and death. Tang Huan, who possessed a sun spirit body, was actually this powerful. Although the soul talisman is strong, it isn't effective against anyone. Tang Huan secretly snorted in his heart. He had experience fighting against the soul symbol from Fen Han. So when Fenlei activated the soul symbol, the attack that Tang Huan launched at him earlier was not affected in the slightest. Instead, Burning Thunder used the soul symbol as a trump card, completely not expecting that Tang Huan's attacks would be as fierce as before. The price of Fenlei's misjudgment was his life. After that, Tang Huan's gaze quickly swept the area. Although he did not say anything, the coldness in his eyes made the surrounding demon clan experts feel fear and trepidation. "Young master, the young lord is dead. Run, run, we need to leave this place as soon as possible." Tens of people did not dare to stay any longer. They ran like wolves and scattered like birds. The instant he killed Fenlei, he felt a ball of black energy follow the long spear and enter into his body. After condensing into a mark at the center of his brows, it quickly disappeared. When the demon clan's young master dies, the soul imprint would be transferred to the murderer's body. However, Tang Huan's brows quickly furrowed. He had already unleashed it. To defend, to defend, to defend. No matter how strong Fentian was, he would not be able to run to the Glory Continent for the time being. On the other hand, when Shen Shan and Yu Fian saw the flash of black between his brows, their eyes revealed a look of worry. Night gradually descended and the area was soon shrouded in darkness. A bonfire was lit in the forest. The seven-colored spirit rat happily found a few branches from nearby and threw them into the fire, letting out a few popping sounds from time to time. Shan Shan and Yu Fian sat by the bonfire quietly. Under the light of the fire, the two beautiful faces looked even more beautiful. After sensing the aura of the two, Tang Huan relaxed and closed his eyes once again. The injuries of the two were indeed not light, but since one of them had a extreme yin spirit body and the other had a spirit body, and they were both from stage 9 martial saint, circulating their entire power, their recovery speed was extremely fast. In less than half a day, their auras had already stabilized. Unknowingly, Tang Huan had also activated the spiritual arts of communicating with heaven and earth to its limits. Whether it was the 9 Yang divine furnace or the 5 colors spiritual pills, They were all rotating at a very fast speed. However, Tang Huan did this not because he wanted to cultivate, but because he wanted to understand his son's spirit body. Tang Huan calmed his heart and became extremely focused. Not long after, Tang Huan discovered that every cell and nerve in his body seemed to have become incomparably active. He even had the feeling that even if a large portion of his muscles were cut off, they would still be able to grow back in an extremely short period of time. This feeling was incredibly wonderful. Tang Huan was immediately immersed in it quietly. The 7 spirits each have their own unique features. I wonder what kind of wonders Shen Shan's extreme yin spirit body and senior sister Fian's spirit body have. After an unknown period of time, Tang Huan finally regained his senses. The instant his thought flashed through his mind, his eyes also opened. The bonfire had already been extinguished at some point in time, and the 7-colored spirit mouse was sound asleep on Tang Huan's shoulder. However, after looking around, Tang Huan was stunned. Shan Shan and Yu Fian had actually disappeared without a trace. Don't tell me these 2 girls are fighting again? Tang Huan's face changed slightly as he suddenly jumped up. On his shoulder, the 7-colored spirit mouse had also woken up. Squeak squeak. After a long while, Tang Huan stood in the middle of a mountain forest that was in complete disarray, and was completely silent. At this moment, although there was only a bit of light in the sky, the traces here could already be clearly seen. Just as he expected, Shen Shan and Yu Fian had another battle here. Zizi, the 7-colored spirit mouse that smelled on the ground for a while, ran back to Tang Huan and stood up. Its little claws pointed to the left and then to the right. Tang Huan understood its meaning. After the great battle, Shen Shan and Yu Fian had already parted ways. Squeak squeak. The 7-colored spirit mouse called out again, seeming to ask which way they were going. No more chasing. Let's return to the Wofu Sacred Mountain. Tang Huan frowned. After a moment, he had already made his decision. After yesterday's lesson, without the person leading them, the people from Demon Clan would definitely not appear again. Furthermore, Shen Shan and Yu Fian were not stupid. Even if they were to fight again, they would leave some leeway for fear of being taken advantage of. Tang Huan didn't know what kind of grudge existed between Shen Shan and the both of them, and he didn't plan to get to the bottom of this right now. Since the 2 of them want to fight, then let them fight first. From Tang Huan's observation, the battle between the 2 of them must have lasted more than 10 years. After all these years of not being able to reconcile with them, Tang Huan didn't think that he would be able to solve the problem just by chasing after them. Junior brother Tang Huan, I knew you would follow me. But just as Tang Huan was about to leave with the rainbow spirit mouse, Yu Fian's slightly hoarse yet magnetic unique voice sounded out. Subconsciously looking towards the direction of the voice, she saw Yu Fian rushing over from the forest on the right. In just a short moment, she had stopped in front of Tang Huan. Sister Fian, why are you back? Tang Huan could not help but ask. Senior sister, I was planning to return to the Heavenly Forging City, so I came back to bid my farewells to you. Yu Fian laughed loudly. Junior brother Tang Huan, do you plan to try that heaven stairway again? Exactly. Tang Huan subconsciously nodded. Yu Fian's expression straightened as he slowly said, Junior brother Tang Huan, since you already possess a sun spirit body and have even comprehended the force of the martial saint, that spirit seed is actually not too bad for you. However, since we are here for the spirit seed, we cannot return empty-handed. Furthermore, climbing the heaven stairway and entering the extreme spirit palace is also a pretty good method of training. It is a pity to miss it. However, there is one thing that I hope Junior will remember. When we obtain the spirit seed in the extreme spiritual palace, no matter how great the temptation is, you still have to protect your heart and must not waver in the slightest. Understood? Thank you, senior sister. Although Tang Huan did not understand the meaning behind Yu Fian's words, he still remembered her words. Alright, I'm leaving. That woman, it's best to stay away from her. Yu Fian laughed and waved at Tang Huan, his figure quickly disappearing and leaving without a trace. Tang Huan, I'll be going back to Heavenly Forging City first. It's best if you don't bother with that woman from now on. Not long after, he watched Yu Fian leave. and then Tang Huan watched him leave once again. She and Yu Fian had truly thought of the same thing. Not only did they come back to say their farewells to Tang Huan, even the last few words they said before leaving were similar, leaving Tang Huan speechless. "Little brat, it's time for us to leave as well." In a blink of an eye, Shan Shan's graceful figure had already left his sight. Tang Huan felt at a loss, but quickly collected himself and headed towards the Wofu Holy Mountain. Chapter 416, The Peak of the Sacred Mountain. The young master of the demon clan, Fen Lei, had been killed by Tang Huan. The moment the news was released, the foot of the Wofu Saints Mountain was immediately shaken. Many of the young experts from the three families were shocked by Tang Huan's strength. Among the many monarchs in the demon clan, Fen Lei was the strongest. Even if Fen Han obtained the Tabai spirit body, he still might not be able to contend against Fen Lei. But now, Fen Lei had actually been killed by Tang Huan, so the strength of Tang Huan could be imagined. Other than that, Tang Huan's courage caused others to be speechless. Every young master of the demon clan has a soul imprint planted in their soul. Once killed, the soul imprint would be transferred to the murderer's body. This way, Fen Tian could feel the direction of the culprit anytime, anywhere, and would kill him personally or send people to kill him. In the Wofu world, there was naturally no need to worry, but outside, Tang Huan was in danger. After all, it was impossible for Tang Huan to stay in Heavenly Forging City for his entire life and not leave there for his entire life. Fen Tian would not take the internal strife between the young masters of the demon clan to heart, but since the young master of the demon clan was killed by the human clan, how could Fen Tian possibly ignore it? Before anyone could finish their exclamations of surprise, Tang Huan had already returned to the safe zone at the foot of the Wofu Saint. In the early morning of the next day, after following Yu Fian's lead, Tang Huan leisurely walked up the 98th heaven stairway, and once again ignited the three clans' residences around the sky pillar. When Tang Huan stepped onto the heaven stairway, he found that there was a sea of people at the foot of the heaven stairway. The sound of exclamations had congealed into a huge sound wave that reverberated back and forth in the air above the Wofu Saint Mountain. Under the attentive gaze of the crowd, Tang Huan, who had been standing at the top of the 98th heaven stairway for a long time, suddenly sat down. After a while, Tang Huan's figure had completely disappeared, and at the place where he was seated, there were dense five-color odorous that were surging about like clouds. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. In the early morning, 3 human clans arrived at the foot of the heaven stairway. "This Tang Huan is really scary," a thin and slender young man said emotionally. "Others who have been in this Wofu world for a few years would only be able to reach level 50 to 60, but he did well. The first time was level 72. And the second time was simply level 98. I'm only missing the last step." When a girl in a yellow dress heard this, she could not help but exclaim, counting it down, "He has already been continuously staying on the heaven stairway for 7 days already, right? I wonder when he will be able to cross that final step, reach the summit, enter the extreme spiritual palace, and obtain the spirit seed." That's hard to say. Yu Fian had to stop at the 98th step for a long time. Only until the day last year's 7 glorious star plate appeared did he manage to make it past the 99th step and reach the summit of the mountain. The one who spoke was also a young lady dressed in green, looking very charming and beautiful. When she mentioned Yu Fian, her brows were filled with worship and admiration. Tang Huan. The skinny man raised his eyes to the end of the heaven stairway. Just as the 2 words delicious came out of his mouth, his voice suddenly stopped, and his eyes became somewhat dull. Noticing the expression of the thin man, the 2 women subconsciously followed his gaze. Where's Tang Huan?" After a split second, the yellow-dressed woman couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice. "Can it be that he came down?" The green-robed woman was stunned for a long moment before she muttered, "He didn't come down. He went up. He went up." The thin man suddenly shouted out in excitement. He was actually dancing and his eyes were filled with fervor. They went up? Tang Huan entered the living area of the Extreme Spirit Palace, within a camp of the Tian clan. Qin Ying shouted out, and deep within her beautiful eyes, a hint of surprise could be seen. So fast? Didn't they say that he had just stepped onto the 98 heaven stairway 7 days ago? Even Yufian had to spend so much time to successfully step onto the final step. But Tang Huan, he only used a short 7 days. When did the sky stairway become so easy to pass? Snow Song, you can't compare them like that. King Ying came back to her senses, and laughed bitterly. The reason Yufian stayed at the sky stairway to level 98 for so long is because she wanted to train her martial intent to the maximum. Otherwise, she would have entered the Extreme Spirit Palace long ago. Even then, it's still too fast. Could it be because of the Sun Spirit body? Chu Shuang asked in surprise. It shouldn't have anything to do with the Sun Spirit body. However, during the process of acquiring the Sun Spirit body, it is said that he had already comprehended the force of the martial saint. At such a stage, even if he does not have a spirit seed, he can still enter the martial saint. The reason he was able to reach the top of the sacred mountain so quickly ought to be due to his comprehension of the word impose. Yufian, Shan Shan has become stage 9 martial saint one by one, and Tang Huan is also not far from stage 9 martial saint. So I have to hurry and reach there. You have brought the universe spirit ring with you. You can bring Mu Yan out of here at any time. When Tang Huan descends the heaven stairway, I will follow you back to the Flying Cloud City to try to break through to the Law Saint realm. Tang Huan, in the Demon Clan residence area, a demonified man gritted his teeth as he repeated the name a few times. His face was extremely gloomy. Not only him, the other experts of Demon Clan all had the same expression. The inside of the camp quickly fell into dead silence. After condensing the Sun Spirit body and leaving the 7 glorious star plate, he once again ascended the Wofu Sacred Mountain and entered the Extreme Spirit Palace. This Tang Huan is truly a favored child of heaven, perhaps the youngest stage 9 martial saint born in the last 1,000 years of the human clan. A voice suddenly broke the silence in this space, and the one who spoke was an exceptionally tall and sturdy stone person. His entire body seemed to have been sculpted out of a giant boulder. The already stage 9 martial saints Yufian and Yufian, adding this Tang Huan, it's already 3. In recent years, human clan has indeed produced many geniuses. We, the Demon Clan, do not have a single one of such astounding young geniuses, and there were 3 of them from the human clan. Shi Jian, don't always try to make others lose their will and power. A werewolf couldn't help but snort. No matter how powerful this Tang Huan is, he's even stronger than Demon Lord. Among all the monarchs, the ones Demon Lord liked the most were young Master Fen Lei and young Master Fen Han. After Tang Huan killed young Master Fen Lei, there must have been a soul imprint within his body. It's fine if he didn't leave the Glory Continent, but if he did, then the Demon Lord very likely would have personally made a move and killed him. In front of the Demon Lord, no matter how powerful Tang Huan is, he is just like a chicken or dog, unable to withstand a single blow. That's right, let this Tang Huan be arrogant for a bit more. In the future, even if Demon Lord does not kill him personally, he will definitely send Demon King to kill him. Chapter 417, Spirit Seed. At the peak of the sacred mountain, the crystal clear palace was the spiritual extreme holy palace. Green, red, white, black, and yellow lights intertwined, dazzling everyone's eyes. Ling Ji. In front of the palace with the big door opened, Tang Huan looked at the 2 colorful runes on the plaque, and uncontrollably revealed a smile on his face. The Wofu Sacred Mountain, which carried this palace, was not high. If it were any other low mountain peak, one could easily reach the peak from all around. However, the Wofu Sacred Mountain was very different. If one wanted to step onto the top of the sacred mountain, they could only climb up the 99 heaven stairway step by step. There seemed to be an indestructible barrier surrounding the mountain, preventing anyone from taking a step further. The second time he stepped on the heaven stairway, Tang Huan felt much more relaxed. When he reached the 98th step, Tang Huan stopped. It was not because he could not go up, but because he suddenly realized that inside his Danshan, the five colors spiritual pills' martial intent was still not completely integrated. Thus, Tang Huan stopped at the first level of Heaven's Stairway. It was also at that time that Tang Huan understood why Yufian had stayed there for such a long time. That flight of stairs was like a touchstone to human clan. Even if there was a little bit less than perfection in the meaning of martial arts, they would still have a feeling in the shadows. If the young warriors from the Tian clan could reach the 98th step, it would also be the same. If he ignored it, of course he would be able to climb to the peak. However, he would miss such an opportunity. It was a bit of a pity, because everyone only had this one chance. After obtaining the spirit seed, he could no longer climb the Heaven's Stairway. Tang Huan calmed his heart and focused on training on the stairs. Inside the five colors spiritual pills, the martial concept became more pure and condensed. When Tang Huan felt that the martial intent was no longer flawed, he took his last step and stepped onto the peak of the Wofu Saint Mountain. I wonder what that spirit seed looks like. Tang Huan's mind raced, and the words that Yufian said before he left swept past his mind, and then, he focused himself and stepped into the palace. In the next moment, Tang Huan felt a gentle aura enveloping his entire body, and then, he was trapped in a rainbow-colored space. Ho! A slight sound of something tearing through the air entered his ears. Tang Huan almost instinctively reacted to it and grabbed it into his palm. After that, he looked down, and in his right palm appeared a beautiful pearl, which was mixed with 5 different colors, and was as big as an egg. Clang! So this is the spirit seed? Tang Huan's heart stirred, and he carefully sized it up. Unconsciously, Tang Huan's soul and consciousness had already been immersed within it. In a trance, Tang Huan seemed to see a tall and lofty figure. On top of his palm, a small ball of flame was churning incessantly, but as the flame continued to burn, dust seemed to accumulate within the palm of his hand. As the flames weakened, a pile of dust appeared in his palm. The dust and dirt continued to condense into a small mountain, and strange rocks started to form within the mountain. Following that, more strands of water seeped out from the stone, and the small mountain became moist. Soon after, a few sparks emerged from within the vegetation of the mountain and quickly turned into a blazing fire. The entire mountain was actually set ablaze, and when the flames were extinguished, the vegetation turned into dust, and the mountain actually became even larger. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of years passed. The small mountain within his palm had already become a world. Within that world, it seemed as if countless living beings were reproducing and reproducing. With a grasp of his palm, the world disappeared. All life melted away, but soon after, that hand opened up again, creating another new world. Fire breeds earth, earth breeds gold, metal breeds water, water breeds wood, wood breeds fire. The 5 elements flowed, evolved, and formed the world. This is the 5 elements Tao, the Tao of the heavens and the earth. A voice suddenly resounded within Tang Huan's mind, and the figure immediately disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by the rainbow pearl in Tang Huan's hand. That voice seemed to contain an incomparably strong will, as it endlessly attacked Tang Huan's soul. At that moment, in Tang Huan's eyes, the rainbow-colored bead was releasing an extremely strong enticement, causing Tang Huan to wish that he could immediately absorb and refine it, and merge it into his body. Tang Huan clenched his fist tightly again and again, and then let go. After a long while, Tang Huan suddenly smiled, and said to himself softly, "The 5 elements Tao, the heaven and earth Tao, are my Tao, but this spirit seed is not mine." With a light wave of his hand, the multicolored bead left his hand. Ho! An instant later, Tang Huan felt a gentle force of rejection, and within his realm of vision, a brilliant light flashed and fluctuated. After an unknown period of time, Tang Huan's feet had already landed on the ground and his vision became clear once more. Immediately, he discovered that he was already at the foot of the Wofu Saint Mountain. What stood in front of Tang Huan was still the 99 Heaven Stairway. On the Heaven Stairway, many figures were seated cross-legged, and the auras of the 5 elements were revolving around them. So that's how it is. Looking up at the Heaven Stairway, a smile of realization flashed past Tang Huan's eyes. When the Extreme Spirit Palace acquired the Spirit Seed, No matter how great the temptation was, they had to maintain their resolve and not waver in the slightest. These words came out of Yu Fian's mouth. At this time, Tang Huan finally understood why she said these words to him. Every time someone entered the Extreme Spirit Palace, the spirit seed that they would obtain would change according to the person they were in. Every spirit seed was a form of comprehension. It was unknown who left those comprehensions behind. Within those insights, the will of those people could be found. To fuse with a spirit seed was the same as fusing the will within the spirit seed. If he continued to cultivate like this, once he advanced to stage 9 martial saint, his soul would probably be affected greatly, and might even be assimilated by the will. At that time, would he still be considered himself? This kind of spirit seed, it's fine if you don't want it. Tang Huan smiled in his heart. Yu Fian should have made the same choice as him. However, although he had given up on the spirit seed, Tang Huan's trip to the Extreme Spirit Palace was not without results. At the very least, he was able to see the direction that he needed to work hard towards through the spirit seed. For a moment, Tang Huan could not help but feel a surge of emotions. He didn't know if what he saw in the spirit seed was something that someone could achieve, or if it was just a deduction made by the owner of that will. After all, that was just too incredible, but it didn't matter. As long as he moved forward step by step, one day he would be able to walk out of his path of the 5 elements, the path of heaven and earth. As he was thinking, Tang Huan was already heading towards the 3 clans' residence area at the back of the mountain, and a cry of surprise faintly came from behind. Tang Huan. That's Tang Huan. He came out from the Extreme Spirit Palace. Chapter 418. Who was he? First level of the Heavens Spirit Realm, inside a small hall that was like white jade. The space around the arch fluctuated rapidly, and a figure flashed out. It was a handsome young man with a slender body and a long spear in his hand. The man was Tang Huan. Once he returned to this place, Tang Huan couldn't help but smile at the familiar feeling brought by the rich spirit energy of the heaven and earth. Shan Shan and senior sister Fian should have already left the sky spirit realm. I wonder if Goof and the rest are still here? Tang Huan's mind raced, and unknowingly, he had already passed through the long passageway between the houses, and arrived at the wide plaza. Just like when they first came in, there were many martial warriors in the plaza, some by themselves, some in groups of 2 or 3. At this time, almost everyone was looking at the center of the plaza. No one noticed Tang Huan's arrival. In front of the Jade Monument, dozens of figures were gathered, bustling with activity. Walking to the edge of the crowd, looking inside, Tang Huan's expression became somewhat strange. There were actually 2 groups of people fighting inside. On one side was a group he was familiar with. It was Yuan Yunshan, Tu Bang, and the others. On the other side were 20 to 30 young men and women, all of whom had angry expressions on their faces. Yuan Yunshan, Tu Peng and the others were actually plundering the new martial warriors that had entered the Heavens Spirit Secret Realm, just like they had done in their previous lives. This kind of action was indeed hateful. However, there was a reason why the strongest martial warriors in the Heavens Spirit Secret Realm had yet to be stopped. Tang Huan only understood this point before he left the Wofu Sacred Mountain. Those who were able to enter the Sky Spirit Secret Realm were all proud sons of heaven, either talented individuals or of noble status. They were all proud individuals and had never experienced any setbacks. This kind of mentality was not necessarily a good thing for their cultivation. Such looting could be considered a form of training for them. Because of this, the 3rd-level Mystic Realm experts had always taken a tacit agreement with this young master. Otherwise, even with Liu Qian as their backing, Yuan Yunshan, Tu Bang and the rest would not be able to plunder wantonly within the Heavens Spirit Secret Realm. After all, even though Liu Qian was ranked in the top 9 and had tyrannical strength, he was still far from being able to cover the sky with one hand in this place where experts gathered. A martial lord of the 8th step? As his gaze swept across Yuan Yunshan, Tang Huan couldn't help but laugh. It had been so long since they last met, but this guy's cultivation had increased by quite a lot. He had already reached the 8th step, martial lord, and had probably made a breakthrough for a long time already. This was normal, as 1 year in Luofu world was equivalent to 2 years for the first stage of the Sky Spirit realm. Not only him, even Tu Peng and the others had their cultivations greatly improved. It seemed like after that painful lesson, it was already enough to make them reflect on the pain and work hard to cultivate. With their current level of cultivation, even if they encountered a tough opponent, they would still be able to withstand it. For example, among the dozens of young men and women, there were several at the peak of the 7th step. But facing Wang Yunshan, there was no advantage at all. Hurry up, how powerful is Tang Huan? Even when he just entered the Sky Spirit realm, he still handed in his weapon and gold notes. You guys are an exception. Here, the stage 7 martial master is not even a fart. Hearing his words, the group of young men and women became even more furious, but in the end they did not show it, and in the end they all handed over their weapons and gold notes. We will get these things back one day. A tall man in green clothes glared at Wang Yunshan, Tu Peng and the others with hatred in his eyes. I'm so scared. Tu Peng let out a strange laugh when he heard this. He immediately picked his ear and said with a ridiculing face, "Brother, can't you change to something new? This way, your elder has heard this countless times and will soon have calluses growing on your ears." You! The green-robed man's face turned red. He gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go." Then, with a wave of his hand, the group of people turned around in anger. But right at that moment, a sharp-eyed youth suddenly caught a glimpse of Tang Huan, who was standing outside the group, and could not help but shout out, "Didn't you guys say that everyone's weapons were to be handed over? How can he hold them?" "There's another rookie." Tu Peng puffed his chest out as he let out a sinister laugh, following the direction of the youth's eyes. Once his gaze made contact with Tang Huan's face, his sinister smile froze. Wang Yunshan and the rest also noticed Tang Huan's existence, and the expression on their faces immediately became extremely marvelous. "Brother Tu, well done." Tang Huan smiled as he walked forward and patted Tu Peng's shoulder. No. Just now, It was unknown if he was crying or laughing, but with every slap of Tang Huan's palm, his body became a bit shorter. By the time Tang Huan had retracted his palm, he was already about to kneel on the ground. When they saw this scene, the man in green and the others looked at each other, their faces filled with bewilderment. Just a moment ago, the incredibly arrogant Tu Peng, when he saw this young man with a long spear, was like a mouse seeing a cat. "Brother Ruang, how have you been?" Tang Huan cupped his hands towards Wang Yunshan and smiled. "Big elder brother, I'll return it to them right away." Wang Yunshan was extremely embarrassed. The scars on his face twisted and turned, unexpectedly revealing a smile that was even uglier than crying. The last time they robbed Tang Huan, they were beaten up, and as a result, they started to cultivate diligently. Now that their cultivation had risen greatly, and they couldn't help but want to move, they started to run into their old business, but they didn't expect that the first time they moved, they would be hit by Tang Huan. When the green-clothed man and the others saw this, they were even more astonished. Furthermore, looking at his rank on the Heavenly Spirit list, he was indeed very powerful. Furthermore, it was said that he had Liu Qian, who was ranked in the top 9, as his backer. However, in front of this spear-wielding man, his performance was not any better than Tu Peng's. Who exactly is this guy? Could he be an expert ranked higher than Liu Qian on the Heavenly Spirit list? No need. You can do whatever you want. This time was different from the past. Tang Huan would naturally not stop them, and quickly walked towards Wang Yunshan, Tu Peng and the others with a smile. Very quickly, Tang Huan was standing in front of the tablet. Yu Fian was still ranked first, Shen Shen was ranked second, Liu Qian was ranked 6th, Wu Yixian was ranked 16th, Meng Zixuan, Gong Sheng, Mo Shang, Lu Rua, and even Tang Long had all rushed to the top 50. Goof was ranked 63rd. Chapter 419, Weapon Refining Sacred Assembly. I wonder what rank I'll be able to get this time. In the blink of an eye, Tang Huan's right index and middle finger had already descended. On the 2-foot square imprint, a red aura fluctuated violently, rolling like a tide. Buzz. Almost at the same time, An earth-shaking explosion was heard. At the peak of the stone monument, countless red lights bloomed before pouring down like a waterfall, immediately enveloping the entire body of the stone monument underneath. In a split second, everyone in the plaza turned their gazes over. Third place, Tang Huan. Tang Huan. He is Tang Huan. He actually managed to get to third place in a short while. After a short period of silence, cries of surprise rose and fell one after another, especially those martial warriors who had just entered the Sky Spirit's secret realm. They were so shocked that their eyeballs nearly popped out of their sockets. They had all been secretly trying to guess the identity of the spear-wielding man, but in that moment, they didn't connect him to the Tang Huan in the rumors. He did not expect Tang Huan to look like this. He was truly very young, and it was said that he was not even 20 years old. He is even taller than Brother Liu. Wang Yunshan, Tu Peng and the others also looked at each other, their eyes filled with ineffable shock. They had originally guessed that Tang Huan would probably be able to make it into the top 9. After all, according to the information brought by the martial warriors that had returned to the secret realm from the Wofu world a few days ago, he had condensed a sun spirit body from the 7 glorious star plate. The rookies did not know about the situation in the Sky Spirit secret plane. They were very clear about this. The top-ranked Yu Fian and the second-ranked Shan Shan had already left the Heavenly Spirit realm, but their names had not disappeared from the Heavenly Spirit list yet. This meant that Tang Huan, who was ranked 3rd, was already the de facto number 1 expert within the Heaven Spirit secret realm. Not only was it the Sky Spirit realm, even including all the young experts from the 3 clans of Luofu world, Tang Huan would still be well-deserved to be number 1. 3rd. Tang Huan looked up and a smile appeared on his face. This ranking was completely in line with his guess. He reckoned that his true strength was a little weaker than Yu Fian's, but it should be about the same as Shan Shan's. However, to surpass them on the Heavenly Spirit list, he did not have much hope. With Tang Huan's understanding of the two of them, even if they were to leave, they would definitely compete against each other on the Heavenly Spirit list. Therefore, their rankings on the Heavenly Spirit list definitely carried the weight of their most powerful genuine chi. When their names disappeared, Tang Huan reckoned that they would be ranked first on the Heavenly Spirit list for a few days. Of course, if Tang Huan stayed in the Sky Spirit realm for the rest of the time, and Yu Fian and Shan Shan did not enter anymore, there would probably be no martial warriors that could surpass him. In fact, if Tang Huan were to break through to Martial Saint now, if he succeeded, he would have the confidence to surpass Shan Shan and Yu Fian and reach the top on the list. However, there was no point in doing so. Tang Huan decided to continue to hone his skills for now. When the time was right, he would not need to intentionally rush into Martial Saint. At that time, he would naturally be able to take that final step. That would be the best. In a blink of an eye, Tang Huan had already walked toward the back of the giant monument while being watched by many gazes. Watching Tang Huan's figure disappear from their line of sight, Wang Yunshan, Tu Beng and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Although Tang Huan had always been amiable when he spoke to them, the oppressive feeling he gave them was enormous, causing their hearts to tremble. I think someone just said that when Tang Huan first entered the secret realm, he also handed over his weapon and gold bills to them. Haha, I'm going to die from laughter. I actually saw a few cows flying above. A mocking voice suddenly rang out, and when that group of young men and women spoke, their eyes were filled with ridicule and ridicule. Looking at the situation just now, when Tang Huan had just entered the secret realm, how could he possibly hand over his weapon and gold bills to Wang Yunshan and the others? The butcher was obviously bragging. However, Tu Peng never would have thought that Tang Huan was actually beside him when he was bragging, and Tu Ba's subsequent reaction was equivalent to him piercing through his own skin. Thinking back to that scene, everyone nearly burst out laughing. Wang Yunshan, Tu Peng and the rest all had ugly expressions on their faces, especially Tu Peng. He was ashamed and angry. However, Tang Huan was right behind them, so they did not dare to flare up. In the end, they could only leave with their things under the laughter of the group of young boys and girls. However, Tang Huan did not pay any more attention to what was happening below. He followed the spiral staircase, and quickly arrived at the second level of the spirit realm. If Goof was still here, and had not entered the Luofu world, he had planned to bid his farewells and head towards the exit to wait for it to open, before returning to the heavenly forging city. It was a pity that he didn't have enough time, otherwise, he could have gone to the third level of the mystic realm to find a room to cultivate for a period of time. Second level of the secret realm, second row 15th, was Goof's room. Just as he walked to the door, before Tang Huan could open the door to take a look at the situation inside, the door quietly opened, and a graceful figure standing by the side entered his line of sight. After a year of not seeing her, her pretty face had lost not only her childishness, but also her figure. Under her tight clothes, her breasts were protruding, her waist was slender, and her buttocks were raised. Her 2 legs were perfectly round and beautiful, as if they contained an astonishing elasticity. The current Goof had a beautiful body, and was rather hot. This was truly a change in the age of 18. Compared to before, Goof's appearance was now even more elegant and graceful, much less young and inexperienced, but it had more of a mature charm to it. Not only that, Goof's cultivation had increased by leaps and bounds. She was actually already a martial lord of the 8th step, but her chi was still unstable. Obviously she had just broken through, but even so, with her current cultivation, she could already enter the top 50 ranks of the heavenly spirit rankings. This heaven's spirit secret realm was indeed a holy land for cultivation. When Goof came in, he was weak, but he could already be considered to be an expert. However, not every martial warriors that came here had such stunning performances. When he came in, he was at stage 7 martial master, and when he came out a few years later, he was still at stage 7 martial master, full of them. Tang Huan, you're finally back. Seeing Tang Huan standing at the door, Goof was stunned for a moment, and immediately cheered out in delight. I was just about to go to your room, and left you a note. Leave a note? Tang Huan stared blankly for a moment, only then did he realize that he was carrying a small bundle in his hands. Are you leaving the Sky Spirit Realm now? Yes, the weapon refining sacred assembly is about to begin soon. Tang Huan, are you going to participate as well? Goof looked at Tang Huan happily, her beautiful eyes filled with anticipation. It was only then that Tang Huan remembered that the weapon refining sacred assembly was indeed about to be held soon. He couldn't help but recall the agreement he made with the little princess of Great Tang Empire back then. I'm not sure whether or not I'll participate in it right now. Really? Then let's go together. Goof's beautiful eyes instantly narrowed into crescent moons, a faint blush appearing on her delicate face. Chapter 420, Referee. On the day that the Heaven's Spirit Secret Realm opened, martial warriors could enter the secret realm from the Heaven's Spirit Hall of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, and before long, they could leave the Heaven's Spirit Secret Realm and return to the Heavenly Forging City. Once Tang Huan returned from Luofu World, he was able to leave. However, in the afternoon, as soon as Tang Huan had walked out of the Heaven's Spirit Hall, Pang Bo brought them to the 3rd floor of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, where they met with Great Elder Shen Guan once again. Tang Huan, you've come out at this time, is it to participate in the weapon refining sacred assembly as well? Shen Guan sized Tang Huan up with a smile, the depths of his eyes revealing a hint of appreciation that was difficult to conceal. There were people frequently entering and exiting the Sky Spirit Realm, which allowed him to understand Tang Huan's situation quite a bit. More than a year ago, when Tang Huan first entered the Sky Spirit Realm, he was only a stage 7 martial master, but now, he was a peak of the 8th step martial lord. The increase in cultivation was only one aspect. Tang Huan actually managed to condense a sun spirit body inside the 7 glorious star plate. This was an extremely mystical physique. When the 7 glorious star plate appeared this time, although the young experts of Tian clan and Demon clan had each obtained 2 spirit bodies, the human clan's harvest was undoubtedly the biggest. Other than Yufian's Red Wanderer spirit body and Shen Shen's extreme yin spirit body, Tang Huan's sun spirit body could be considered the first of the 7 great spirit bodies. If nothing unexpected happened, the people who obtained the spirit bodies could surpass the stage 9 realm in the future. Of course, the little girl who came back with Tang Huan was also doing quite well. He had a deep impression of this little girl called Goof. When she had just entered the sky spirit realm, she was still just a small stage 4 martial master. Almost 2 years later, she had already become a martial lord of the 8th step. Great clan elder, do you think that I am qualified to participate in the weapon refining sacred assembly? Tang Huan said somewhat helplessly. When he found out that Shen Guan wanted to see him, he guessed that Shen Guan would ask him such a question. This weapon refining sacred assembly was different from the weapon refining competition. It was aimed at weapon refiners that were not older than 30 years old, and it had to be at least mid-ranked. Bluo Continent 3, Legend of the Dragon King http://www.bikes.com/0_48/ Tang Huan completely fulfilled the requirements, but with his tools method attainments, participating in this was meaningless. Tang Huan reckoned that if he had just a bit of time, he would be able to refine an extremely good quality heavenly grade armament and become a weapon refining master. As for the other young people who would be participating in the weapon refining sacred assembly, most of them would be middle-ranked weapon refiner, and a few would be high-ranked weapon refiner. Tang Huan was just a weapon refining master. How could he possibly compete with an ordinary high-ranking and middle-ranked weapon refiner? Tang Huan believed that Yufian would also not participate in the test. Weapon refining sacred assembly, with her tools method attainments, after obtaining stage 9 martial saint's strength, it should be easy for her to be promoted to weapon refining grandmaster. Tang Huan, this old man did not ask you to go and compete with those young weapon refiners, but to serve as the judge of the weapon refining sacred assembly. Shen Guan laughed loudly. Referee? Hearing his words, Tang Huan couldn't help but be taken aback. Who was standing to the side, slightly opened her red lips, and her pair of beautiful eyes widened into a circle. Divine Weapon Pavilion's great clan elder actually asked Tang Huan to be the judge of weapon refining sacred assembly. Isn't his a little too whimsical? It had to be known that Tang Huan was only 18 years old. Most of the weapon refiner that participated in the weapon refining sacred assembly were probably older than Tang Huan. Grand Elder, don't joke with me. When Tang Huan came back to his senses, he shook his head as if it was a conditioned reflex, and said while not knowing whether to laugh or cry, Tang Huan, this old man is not joking around. Shen Guan squinted his eyes and said seriously, every single judge of the weapon refining sacred assembly has always had 10 people, 1 weapon refining grandmaster and 9 weapon refining master. This time, weapon refining sacred assembly is no exception. Tang Huan, you have just returned to Heavenly Forging City, so you should have not tried forging a heavenly grade armament yet. However, I believe that the current you already have the tools method attainments of the weapon refining master, so you are completely qualified to be the judge of this weapon refining sacred assembly apostrophe. This, seeing Shen Guan's serious expression, Tang Huan could not help but become a little hesitant. Although he had heard the news of the weapon refining sacred assembly from Goof when he was in the sky spirit realm, he did not take this matter to heart. According to his original plan, on the 6th day of June, after meeting with the old fatty, he would bring the little girl Fengming to Fengming's Bloody Flame Mountain and get her flame heart. Afterwards, they would set off from Origin Continent to Holy Spirit Continent. Great Elder, I wonder, when exactly will the weapon refining sacred assembly be held? While he was thinking, Tang Huan suddenly asked, it's the 20th of May now, the day the weapon refining sacred assembly is held. It will be held 10 days later, on the 1st of June, Shen Guan said while beaming. There are still 10 days. Tang Huan muttered to himself, Great Clan Elder, I will try to forge a heavenly grade armament during this period of time. If it succeeds, I will become the judge of the weapon refining sacred assembly, and if it fails, I will change someone else. Great Clan Elder, what do you think? If he could not even forge a heavenly grade armament, Then he would be the referee for the weapon refining sacred assembly. He would probably become the laughing stock of the Glory Continent. Alright, that's settled then. Shen Guan clapped his hands and laughed. Right, great clan elder. Will senior sister Fian be the judge of the weapon refining sacred assembly? Suddenly, Tang Huan asked with some curiosity. With Yu Fian's tools method attainments, he would definitely be more than enough to judge the weapon refining sacred assembly. Shen Guan patted his forehead helplessly. This old man had originally planned to let that girl, Fian, lead the weapon refining sacred assembly to be the referee for this grand event. However, this little girl, this old man did not even see her face before she slipped away. Even this old man does not know where she went now. After Tang Huan heard this, his expression became somewhat strange. The organization of a grand event like the Weapon Refining Sacred Assembly, which happened once every 10 years, needed to deal with all kinds of trivial matters. Even if someone helped them, as the main culprit, it was impossible to be a completely abandoned owner. Although Tang Huan and Yu Fian had not met a few times, they still had a rather good understanding of her personality. She would definitely be in high spirits for her to forge weapons and exchange pointers with experts. However, she probably wouldn't be the least bit interested in dealing with such a matter. Presumably, she had already guessed Shen Guan's plan a long time ago, which was why she fled so that she wouldn't be unable to refuse after meeting him. After a long while, Tang Huan and Goof walked out of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. At this time, she could no longer hold back the excitement in her chest and called out tenderly, Tang Huan, you are about to become the judge of the Weapon Refining Sacred Assembly. SHH. Tang Huan covered Goof's red lips. Seeing that there was no one around, she relaxed and let go of her hands. This matter is still uncertain, please do not spread it. If this news were to spread now, it would not necessarily be a good thing. After all, he was not even a weapon refining master. Yes, Goof nodded his head, his cheeks were burning hot and his eyes moved, he looked embarrassed. Chapter 421, Huge Debt. Not long after, Tang Huan brought Goof to the Four Seasons that was not far from the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Pushing the door open and entering the familiar courtyard, Tang Huan's mood immediately became excited. He could already sense the auras of Zhao Budian and the little girl. Yeah? In the room opposite of them, a suspicious cry sounded out, followed closely by a small blue figure that scurried out. It was Zhao Budian. Yeah. Seeing Tang Huan at the door, Zhao Budian was first startled, but then immediately shouted out with excitement. With a flap of her wings, her small body immediately flew up into the air. In an instant, Zhao Budian had already leapt more than 20 meters away, his meaty little claws grabbing onto Tang Huan's head, his small red tongue quickly licking Tang Huan's face, his crystal clear eyes filled with excitement. In a short while, Tang Huan was already drooling all over his face. After reuniting with the little fellow for so long, Tang Huan was quite excited in his heart. However, the way it expressed intimacy towards him made Tang Huan feel very depressed. He hurriedly pinched its two little claws and moved it away from his head, saving his face from being poisoned. 3 pairs of wings. Tang Huan directly wiped his face dry with his sleeves and sized up Zhao Budian with an excited expression. When he first left the Heavenly Forging City and entered the Heavenly Spirit Realm, Zhao Budian was in a deep slumber. Now that over a year had passed, the 3rd pair of wings on the back of the little guy had indeed grown out. When it came to a pair of wings, Zhao Budian could only flutter twice as he completely had no ability to fly. But when he had 2 pairs of wings, Zhao Budian could already fly in the air for a while, but no matter if it was height or speed, they were both extremely limited. Now that it had grown a 3rd pair of wings, its flying ability finally had a qualitative change. This could be seen from its behavior just now. Yeah! Zhao Budian flapped his 3 small pairs of wings proudly, his mouth wide open as though he was laughing. Tang Huan, is this a spiritual beast? Behind Tang Huan, the dumbstruck Goof had finally recovered from her shock and her beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. Exactly. Tang Huan released Zhao Budian and nodded while smiling. With his current cultivation level and strength, There was no need for him to hide anything from Zhao Budian's existence. It is the second-ranked spiritual beast in Spirit Beast Sport, Blue Dragon. In the blink of an eye, it has already become a six-winged blue dragon. As he finished speaking, Tang Huan's expression couldn't help but reveal an emotional expression. Back then in Maze Realm Forest, this Zhao Budian stole a lot of wine from a certain experienced martial warriors and got drunk. In the end, he was woken up by the pack of wolves chasing after him. Unknowingly, 2 years had already passed since Tang Huan saved it. At that time, Tang Huan had never thought that Zhao Budian could grow so fast, nor that his own cultivation could reach its current state so quickly. Yeah, Zhao Budian bared his teeth as he made a face at Goof, then circled around Tang Huan lightly. He suddenly flew backwards, and somersaulted a few times. Compared to before, Zhao Budian's flying skills were like the difference between heaven and earth. Any girl would have extremely weak resistance against this kind of cute and smart spiritual beast. Not long after, Goof had already seen it to the point where his eyes were shooting stars. But very quickly, Goof was attracted by another clear voice. Looking towards the direction of the voice, they saw a little girl, who looked to be about 3 or 4 years old, quietly standing in front of Tang Huan. She looked sweet and delicate, with fair skin and a cute little red skirt. Tang Huan, you're already a stage 9 martial saint? The little girl rolled her eyes as she sized Tang Huan up. This little girl could actually determine Tang Huan's strength. Although Tang Huan was not stage 9 martial saint now, he was not far from her. However, Goof quickly calmed himself down. She could not feel any energy fluctuations from this little girl's body. It was obvious that she was an ordinary little girl. No, he's still a martial lord of the 8th step. Tang Huan smiled and rubbed her little head. After a year of not seeing her, the little girl had grown a lot taller. However, the person who had entered the fastest was still her cultivation, and Goof was unable to sense any fluctuations in her body. But Tang Huan could clearly feel that she had recovered to the level of stage 6 martial master. The little girl jumped away in anger. Tang Huan, it's good that you're back. Here's your bill, take a good look. After saying that, the little girl giggled and quickly took out a piece of paper from her pocket. One could vaguely see that it was filled with densely written words. Bills? Tang Huan received the page doubtfully. After opening it, with just a glance, Tang Huan was stunned, and his expression became extremely strange. Seeing that, Goof could not help but take a look. 10,300,000,000 gold coins? After a while, Goof gasped in shock. His eyes filled with unconcealable shock. Zhao Budian? Tang Huan finally regained his senses, growled, and looked around in the blink of an eye. Zhao Budian, who was happily flying around, had already disappeared without a trace. Come here. Sweeping his gaze across, Tang Huan saw the room's door opposite him. As soon as the voice fell, a small head stuck out from the edge of the door frame, and 2 large dark blue eyes were filled with innocence. But under Tang Huan's stare, Zhao Budian slipped out of the room, drooped his head, and slowly walked in front of Tang Huan. You ate these things? Tang Huan's face turned black. Yeah. Zhao Budian scratched his head and replied weakly. Then he looked at Tang Huan pitifully, like a child begging for forgiveness. Isn't that a bit too much? Of course, Tang Huan wasn't really angry. He was just a little unsure of whether he should laugh or cry. On the page that the little girl provided, there were records of the Star Ocean Commerce and the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild buying gems on credit. There were only about 20 records, but each record was worth more than 100 million, which added up to more than 10 billion. Before Tang Huan entered the spirit realm, afraid that Zhao Budian would not be able to eat after waking up, he spent a few days to forge a large number of high-grade weapons, which he gave to the Star Ocean Commerce for auction. He obtained more than 900 million gold coins and used it to buy gems from the Star Ocean Commerce. He thought it would be enough for Zhao Budian to eat for a year or 2. However, he didn't expect that when he came out of the Sky Spirit Secret Realm in a year or so, he would owe Star Sea and Spirit Feather Merchant Guild 10 billion gold coins. This was a huge debt. Chapter 422. Goodbye Xingyan. Yeah. Zhao Budian sneaked a peek at Tang Huan and carefully shook his head, as if he wanted to say that there were not many things at all. Tang Huan, You bought this gem with 900 million gold coins. It finished it in the first month after waking up, and then it begged me to help it buy a gem at Star Ocean Commerce. I don't have the money to buy it, so I have to buy it on credit. In just 3 months, it had devoured all the high-grade gems that the Star Ocean Commerce could find. After that, Xing Yan brought me to find the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild. 2 months later, the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild's high-grade gems were also almost all devoured by them. Because of this little scoundrel, the price of high-grade gems has at least doubled in the entire Glory Continent. Even so, many high-grade gems that were common in the past are no longer easy to buy, the girl said with a hint of schadenfreude. Tang Huan was speechless when he heard this, causing Goof to be even more stumped. Just how many high-grade gems did this blue dragon eat, to actually be unable to supply Star Sea and Spirit Feather, the two great organizations, in the end actually caused the price of the high-grade gems in the Glory Continent to rise greatly as well. Star Ocean Commerce and the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild are willing to let you buy so many gems on credit. Tang Huan laughed bitterly. Star Ocean Commerce was alright, but Xing Yan had a good relationship with her, but on his account, buying the high-grade gems worth billions on credits shouldn't be a problem. But he never thought that even the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild would become so friendly. He and Wang Ting didn't have a good relationship at all. Why not? The little girl giggled. Tang Huan, your name is extremely useful in this heavenly forging city. I found Xing Yan from the Star Ocean Commerce, and asked him to buy a large number of high-grade gems on credit. After you come out, he would forge weapons and pay off his debt, and she would not ask why he needed so many gems. After that, Xing Yan brought me over to the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild. After knowing that you would use your weapon to pay back your debt in the future, that Gong Ting agreed without hesitation. I have already made my preparations. If you still do not return today, I will have to look for the Flowing Flower Merchant Guild. Tang Huan was speechless. He had really been sold by this little girl. 10 billion gold coins. Then how many high-grade weapons would he need to forge to get it back? Of course, heavenly-grade armament could also be forged. However, the materials needed to forge a heavenly-grade armament were all quite rare, and were not something that could be obtained just by thinking about. This little guy's appetite was just too big. Tang Huan looked down at Zhao Budian. The little fellow was grinning, its tongue licking its mouth from time to time, looking as if it wanted to continue eating. But when it saw Tang Huan's gaze, it immediately shut its mouth and drooped its head. Its eyes flickered, looking pitiful. Enough. Stop pretending. Tang Huan bent down in annoyance and knocked on Zhao Budian's head with a chestnut, but it gave him a headache. In just a few months' time, the price of the Glory Continent's high-ranked gems had doubled. With its speed, if it kept eating like this, the price of the high-ranked gems would double again very quickly, to the point that it might not even be able to buy them with money. At that time, what would he use to fill the little fellow's stomach? Yeah, Zhao Budian was very smart to realize that Tang Huan would not care about this anymore, and immediately let out a happy cry, proudly sticking his tongue out at the little girl. Zhao Budian seemed to be prepared for it. He flapped his wings and rushed towards the sky, but the little girl's speed was not slower than him, as she grabbed onto one of its hind legs with lightning speed. After being swung around by Zhao Budian a few times, the little girl gracefully turned around and actually climbed onto Zhao Budian's back. This greatly annoyed the little fellow. It was rolling and soaring non-stop in the air above this small courtyard, and it was making all kinds of extremely dangerous movements. Seeing that, Goof was initially worried that the little girl would be thrown to the ground, but very quickly, she relaxed. The little girl knew all the movements of the blue dragon like the back of her hand, and normally, she would play around like this, but she could faintly sense that the little girl was not simple. Tang Huan only glanced at it once, and stopped paying attention to it. Instead, he slowly walked to and fro in the courtyard. Tang Huan, I knew you would come over. In the evening, in the trop room of the Southern Star Ocean restaurant in Heavenly Forging City, Xing Yan sat cross-legged on the ground. With regards to Tang Huan's arrival, she seemed to not find it unexpected at all. She quickly sized him up, and the depths of her beautiful eyes brimmed with a smile. Miss Xingyan, in the past few months, that little girl in my house has given you too much trouble. I am truly sorry, Tang Huan said apologetically. Brother Tang Huan is too formal, Xingyan said while beaming. Our Star Ocean commerce did nothing much either. We only gave Feng Ming a few high-grade gems. That's not just a high-grade gem, it's a high-grade gem worth 7 billion gold coins, Tang Huan said emotionally. Even though it was on credit, it was still an enormous favor, and after all, it was the debt of 7 billion, which was an enormous burden even to the Star Ocean commerce. After a slight pause, Tang Huan asked with some curiosity, Miss Xingyan, don't you want to ask my family's little girl why does she need so many high-grade gems? If Brother Tang Huan is willing to reveal it, then you don't need to ask me to know, Xingyan chuckled. To be honest, I have the spiritual beast Blue Dragon, Tang Huan said slowly as he looked at Xingyan. 7 billion gold coins from the Star Ocean Commerce, 3 billion gold coins from the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild. The total amount of high-grade gems that were worth more than 10 billion was beyond imagination. Even the Divine Weapon Pavilion would not be able to consume so many high-grade gems in such a short time. Under these circumstances, there was no longer a need to conceal the existence of the Blue Dragon. Those who were serious would be able to guess its existence. In this world, only Blue Dragon, who was ranked second in Spirit Beast Sport, needed a massive amount of gems to feed it. As expected, when Xingyan said this, Xingyan did not feel the slightest bit of surprise. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and laughed. Brother Tang Huan, that Blue Dragon of yours probably has 6 wings. When it was 2 wings and 4 wings, it was still alright. However, when it was 6-winged Blue Dragon, its ability increased explosively and its appetite also increased explosively. However, the production of high-grade gems by Glory Continent and Glory Continent is limited. It will not be easy for you to raise a 6-winged Blue Dragon. Brother Tang Huan, in the future, you should go and have a headache. Indeed. Tang Huan nodded with a hopeless smile, then said hesitantly, Miss Xingyan, the truth is, I came this time because, Without waiting for Tang Huan to finish speaking, Xingyan smilingly patted her hands. Under Tang Huan's surprised gaze, she shouted out, bring in the thing that I prepared a while ago. Chapter 423. Do you think that's possible? Yes, sir. A voice sounded from outside the door, and after a while, heavy footsteps could be heard. Subsequently, a thin, middle-aged man pushed open the door and entered with a large wooden chest in his hands. After placing it between Xingyan and the two, the middle-aged man bowed and retreated. Miss Xingyan, this is, Tang Huan said somewhat hesitantly. He could tell that this wooden chest was made from the Absolute Spirit Tree. Crack. Xingyan's eyes revealed a faint smile. He quickly opened the locket lock, opened the lid, and a multicolored light burst out from the locket. Heavenly jewels? Tang Huan couldn't help but exclaim just by peeking at it. Within the box, there were not just a dozen or so heavenly jewels, but over 100. Aside from that, there were also a large number of precious various iron ore. Brother Tang Huan, all of these are for you. Xingyan smiled slightly. For me? Miss Xingyan, you absolutely cannot do this. Tang Huan was shocked. Although he had only taken a glance, he was able to determine that the value of this case of heaven-ranked gems and iron ore was probably not much less than the huge debt he owed Star Ocean Commerce. Tang Huan had originally planned to buy some high-quality iron ore as well as a few hundred high-quality gems and a dozen heaven-ranked gems from the Star Ocean Commerce. It was just that he had not paid his previous debts, and now he was owing a new debt, which was a little difficult to raise. He never thought that Xingyan would prepare so many heaven-ranked gems and iron ore for him before he even finished speaking. Most likely, half of the Star Ocean Commerce's assets would be in this wooden chest. Don't be in such a hurry to refuse. Xingyan laughed crisply. Brother Tang Huan, you have long stepped into the realm of martial lord of the 8th step, but you are still a high-ranking weapon refiner. Coming out of the Sky Spirit realm, you need stones and gems in order to level up your skills. These things are all lent to you by our merchant guild, Brother Tang Huan. If Brother Tang Huan feels apologetic, After he ascends to Weapon Refining Master, he can refine all of our remaining gems and ores into heavenly-grade armament and give them back to our Chamber of Commerce. At that time, we can write off all our debts. That won't do. If that's the case, wouldn't your company suffer huge loss? Tang Huan shook his head. With Brother Tang Huan, the quality of the heavenly-grade armament that you have forged will not be any worse. A crafty smile flashed across Xing Yan's eyes. As long as you control it well, the price of the heavenly-grade armament in your hands will definitely be 2 to 3, or even 4 to 5 times higher than other heavenly-grade armament. With the price of 150 to 200 million gold coins, as long as you have 70 of these heavenly-grade armament, our Star Ocean commerce will not suffer any losses. If we surpass this number, then our company will be able to earn 1 or 200 million for every extra item. Miss Xing Yan, I have never forged any heavenly-grade armament before. Aren't you afraid that I will only produce 20 to 30 of them? Tang Huan could not help but ask. If the number of heavenly-grade armament in this chest were to fall below 70, then Star Ocean Commerce would lose everything. Brother Tang Huan, do you think that's possible? Xing Yan said while beaming. Impossible. Tang Huan was shocked. He stared fixedly at Xing Yan for a long while. Only then were the 3 words coming out from his mouth, causing the two of them to look at each other and laugh out loud. After laughing, Tang Huan's expression became serious. He stood up and bowed deeply to Xing Yan. Miss Xing Yan, thank you very much. After leaving Star Sea Restaurant, a large wooden chest appeared beside Tang Huan. As the lanterns lit up, he was not in a hurry to return to the Four Seas Inn. Instead, he made another trip to the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild. He owed 3 billion in the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild as well. Now that he was out of the Sky Spirit Secret Realm and had gone to the Star Ocean Commerce, he had no choice but to go to the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild. However, when Tang Huan walked out of the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild, the number of wooden boxes beside him had increased to 2. The box that they had brought out of the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild was a little smaller, but there were still tens of heaven-ranked gems inside, along with iron ores that could match up to these gems. The Spirit Feather Merchant Guild's general manager, Wang Ting, and the Star Ocean Commerce's Xing Yan were thinking the same thing. When he brought the 2 wooden boxes back to his living quarters, Goof and the little girl had already disappeared. Without even asking, one could tell that they had gone for a stroll in the city. The night market of the Heavenly Forging City was extremely bustling. Even at midnight, it was not cold and cheerless. For an occasion like that, it was obvious that it was not suitable to bring Zhao Budian along. Therefore, when Tang Huan saw the little fellow, it was squatting pitifully under the roof. Yeah! Zhao Budian wagged his short tail and rushed in front of Tang Huan, his bright big eyes filled with grievance. However, when Tang Huan put down the 2 wooden boxes, its attention immediately turned to them, and excitedly opened them one by one, drilling around the boxes non-stop. Its mouth would occasionally emit a joyful, crisp sound, and it did not even notice the appearance of a figure in the courtyard. Elder Lu, seeing the old man in green suddenly appear in front of him, Tang Huan immediately bowed and saluted. When he returned in the afternoon, Tang Huan did not sense any fluctuations in Lu Chen's qi from the courtyard next door. However, even though Lu Chen was not there were 2 Stage 7 martial masters guarding the place for him. Tang Huan was extremely grateful to Lu Chen. In this period of more than a year, Zhao Budian and Feng Ming had all thanks to him taking care of them. Young master's improvement on the trip to the heavenly spirit realm is indeed astonishing. Lu Chen's face was full of smiles as he praised, now that young noble has returned, this old servant shall leave as well. Leave? Tang Huan was startled. Lu Chen grinned and said, Miss, after you left the Sky Spirit Realm, you went to the Origin Continent's Demon Area Desert apostrophe. That place is very dangerous, and although this old servant's current strength is not as good as Mrs., I still have some experience in winning against her, and might be able to help Miss a little. Infernal Desert. Tang Huan was slightly shocked. What is Shan Shan doing there? I believe young master already knows the origin of the divine weapon catalog. 100 years ago, There was an object from outer space that entered this world. The place where it fell was the infernal desert. Back then, when His Sacred Emperor Majesty found the Divine Weapon Catalog, it seemed that there was something else that he had yet to bring out. This trip of Ms. is to find the place where the foreign object fell. A look of reminiscence appeared in Lu Qin's eyes. So that's how it is. Elder Lu, you don't have to worry too much. Shan Shan was able to condense a extreme yin spirit body from the 7 glorious star plate. With her current strength, as long as she doesn't run into those powerful people from the peak stage 9, she will be safe. Even so, if we don't go over to take a look, we still might not be able to rest at ease. Chapter 424, Shock. Lu Qin had already left that night, including the 2 Stage 7 Martial Masters next door. In the early morning of the next day, Goof had also left the Heavenly Forging City alone, and returned to Furious Waves City to visit her parents. It just so happened that Tang Huan had brought her to visit her own blacksmith shop. Before weapon refining Sacred Assembly, she would have returned to Heavenly Forging City. On the afternoon of the same day as Goof's departure, Tang Huan also brought Zhao Budian, the little girl Feng Ming and the big wooden chest, which had already increased to 4, to the Wonder Artifact Hall. Compared to the Furious Waves City's Wonder Artifact Hall, this place was not only larger in size, the quality of the various equipment was also higher. When Tang Huan said her goodbyes to him yesterday, she mentioned to him that she wanted to borrow this Wonder Artifact Hall for her own use. Shen Guan agreed without hesitation and had even given the order that no one was to enter the Wonder Artifact Hall to disturb Tang Huan before the weapon refining Sacred Assembly. This meant that in the next 10 days, Wonder Artifact Hall would solely be Tang Huan's. Regarding this, Tang Huan naturally wished for it. Around the Wonder Artifact Hall, there were a large number of white jade beads embedded, brilliant luster emitting from them at all times. Even when the door to the hall was tightly shut, the inside of the palace was still as bright as day. Yeah! Zhao Budian jumped down from Tang Huan's shoulder and happily scuttled around the palace. Yesterday evening, Tang Huan went to the Star Ocean Commerce and the Spirit Feather Merchant Guild, and obtained a lot of information from Xing Yan and Wang Qing. In recent months, Xinghai and Lina Merchant Guild had sent 10 billion high-grade gems to his residence. The news had long stirred up Heavenly Forging City. The news about Tang Huan possessing a spiritual beast also spread like wildfire. Currently, almost everyone in the Heavenly Forging City knew about it. Therefore, when Tang Huan left the room this time, he let Zhao Budian lie on his shoulder without trying to cover himself any longer. Along the way, almost everyone raised an eyebrow. Luo Continent 3, Legend of the Dragon King. http://www.bikes.com/0_48/ Even after entering the Divine Weapon Pavilion, there were still many passing weapon refiner pointing fingers. After all, there were far too few blue dragoness. Childish. The little girl curled her lips in disdain towards Zhao Budian, and quickly climbed onto a clean table, sat cross-legged, and held onto the blue ball that seemed to have been condensed from water, and closed her eyes. She calmed down and focused, beginning to absorb the power of the spiritual fire. Luo Continent 3, Legend of the Dragon King. http://www.bikes.com/0_48/ Previous chapter. Table of Contents. Tang Huan calmed his heart and poured out all of the contents of the 4 wooden boxes. 2 of the wooden boxes were filled with heavenly ranked gems and doors, which Tang Huan had personally brought back from the 2 great merchant guilds yesterday evening. The other 2 wooden boxes were filled with high-grade gems, mid-grade gems, and even low-grade gems. To forge heavenly-grade armament, it was not necessary to have ores and heavenly ranked gems. It also required various other ores, because each heavenly grade armament required 4 different types of gems. If he had chosen all the heavenly jewels, the construction cost would have been too high, and he would not have been able to find so many heavenly jewels. Thus, under normal circumstances, only one type of heavenly jewel would be used, and according to this heavenly jewel, the other 3 would be of lower quality. When Tang Huan returned to his residence yesterday, he only did one thing: to choose the other gems for the heaven-ranked gems. It required a great deal of effort to understand all the characteristics of the gems. Moreover, he would have to keep analyzing them. Even with Tang Huan's tools method attainments, his super strong perception ability and his deduction ability, it still took him an entire night to finish selecting and matching those 100 or so gems. After all, this was Tang Huan's first time seeing all these heaven-ranked gems, and he had only heard of them before. Of course, Tang Huan's speed was already extremely astonishing. If it were any other high-ranking weapon refiner, they probably wouldn't be able to finish it in 3 days and 3 nights under the same circumstances. This morning, Tang Huan sent the list of the jewel formulas to the 2 great merchant guilds. Xing Yan and Wang Ting were very fast, and should have made preparations in advance. Before even noon, they sent over all the gems on the list. Tang Huan sorted out all the gems before grabbing a piece of iron ore and starting to try his luck. Early morning, outside Heavenly Forging City, there were not many pedestrians. Tap tap, tap tap. Suddenly, at the end of the road, a line of dozens of people galloped over, their horses' hooves continuously hitting the ground as they emitted concentrated sounds. In the time it took to take 10 breaths, the crowd, who was less than 20 meters away from the city gate, reined in their horses. After a long howl, all the horses stopped on the ground and started to breathe heavily. Obviously, they had been running for a long time. Heavenly Forging City, your reputation is well deserved. A loud laughter sounded out from the front of the horse team. The person who spoke was a middle-aged man around the age of 40. He was tall and wore a green robe. His face was filled with a mustache, his eyes were sunken in, and he had a pair of light green eyes. Big Brother Meng Zhen, should we directly go to the Divine Weapon Pavilion to register later, or should we first find a place to stay? Behind the middle-aged man, a young man with a handsome face started laughing. There's no rush in registering, since there's still 2 days until the first day of June. Let's find a place to stay, and take a look around Heavenly Forging City. The green-clothed man called Meng Zhen laughed. Damn it, I wonder who will be participating in this time's weapon refining sacred assembly apostrophe. No matter who attends, Big Brother Meng Zhen has a huge hope of becoming the head of the sacred assembly. A short-statured young man also said with a face full of smiles. You cannot speak nonsense with these words. If word of this gets out, I will become the laughing stock of this Heavenly Forging City. That Yu Fian has been a weapon refining master for a long time, but she shouldn't be participating in the weapon refining sacred assembly. Otherwise, there's no need to compete anymore and just directly give her the position of the champion. Other than Yu Fian, there are also quite a few other powerful fellows. That 1,000-year-old Wu Yixian from the Heavenly Forging City, the Shalong Empire's Kuisong, and that from the Furious Waves City. These people are all my strong opponents, especially that Tang Huan, who is extremely talented. It's been said that he had already become a of the 8th Order a year ago. I wonder if he has come out of the Heaven's Spirit secret realm, and whether he has already been promoted to Weapon Refining Master. How can Weapon Refining Master be promoted that easily? The handsome man curled his lips and laughed. Weapon Refining Master, you need to have the cultivation of a martial lord of the 8th step to be able to do that. But weapon refiner of the 8th step is not necessarily able to become a weapon refining master. That's true. Let's go. Let's enter the city first. Meng Zhen dismounted and led the horse forward. The people behind him also dismounted at the same time. Chapter 425, Kuisong, Tang Yun. Young Master, Mo Yun Empire's Meng Zhen really did come. The person who spoke was a tall and thin black costume old man. His hair was white, his face was thin, and his eyes looked a little sinister. Moreover, he's the same as us, also living in the Four Seas Academy. How can he not come with such a good opportunity to make a name for himself? On the other side of black costume old man, a short-statured and rather handsome young man could not help but laugh. Since he is here, he will definitely perform well at the Dao Test Monument. Uncle Huang, when the time comes, you should also go over to take a look and see what his results are. Hearing that, The black costume old man who was called Uncle Huang could not help but laugh. Young Noble had activated 21 red lines on the Dao test tablet, similar to Wu Yixian. Meng Zhen will definitely be inferior to Young Noble. That's true. The short man laughed. However, although that Meng Zhen seems to be in his 40s or 50s, he is still a bit skilled. The 21 red lines are quite difficult. 18 lines shouldn't be too much of a problem. That's right. Uncle Huang, where's that Tang Huan? Young master. He still remains in Divine Weapon Pavilion and has not come out, Uncle Huang said in a deep voice. Oh, the short guy frowned and mumbled in confusion. It has been 7 or 8 days, right? What exactly is Tang Huan doing inside? For even Great Clan Elder Shen Guan to personally give the order for no one to enter the Wonder Artifact Hall to disturb him. Oh, it's extremely likely that he's trying to increase his forging skills. From this, it can be seen that he shouldn't be the weapon refining master yet, otherwise, there's no need for him to do this in front of the weapon refining sacred assembly. Without waiting for Uncle Huang's response, the short man continued, but no matter what, this time's weapon refining sacred assembly apostrophe, this Tang Huan is still my Kuisong's greatest opponent. At the end, Kuija's handsome face was filled with a grave expression. Princess Your Highness, we have investigated thoroughly. In the east side of Heavenly Forging City, in an exquisite pavilion, a graceful middle-aged woman hurriedly entered, bowing to the figure before the window. Oh, tell me quickly. The figure quickly turned around. It was a slim and graceful girl in a white dress. She looked to be about 16 or 17 years old. Her delicate body was concave and charming, and her curves were beautiful, especially her soft breasts. She was about to be 16 or 17 years old, and her delicate body was concave and beautiful, and her curves were beautiful, especially her soft breasts. However, what was rather strange was that this girl in a white dress with a well-developed figure actually had an exceptionally delicate and beautiful baby face. Her cherry lips were small, her nose was delicate, and under her crescent-shaped eyebrows were a pair of large eyes as black as the stars in the night. Her skin was as smooth and tender as a newborn baby's, and the redness in her white skin was like a ripe peach. It made one want to take a bite. With a mature figure and a tender face, this young girl's body was constantly emitting a fatal enticement. She was the little princess of Great Tang Empire, Tang Yun. Princess Your Highness, that Tang Huan. The middle-aged woman was slightly hesitant. Why aren't you saying any more? Tang Yun asked doubtfully. That Tang Huan's strength is a little beyond my imagination. The middle-aged woman was still very hesitant. Unimaginable? Tang Yun curiously blinked his clear and big eyes, and laughed. He couldn't be stage 9 martial saint, right? That might not be the case, but I'm afraid that his cultivation is not far from stage 9 martial saint. And as for his tools method attainments, it is very likely that he is already at weapon refining master. The middle-aged woman smiled bitterly. What? Weapon refining master? Tang Yun was instantly dumbstruck and the smile on his face completely froze. After a long while, he asked in disbelief, Atlan, is your information accurate? This news was revealed by Divine Weapon Pavilion's Peng Bo. It should be true, the middle-aged woman said helplessly. I thought that even if I couldn't defeat him this time, I would still be able to tie with him. But now, it seems that there's no hope at all. Tang Yun drooped her head, she looked bitter and small, and mumbled gloomily, but immediately after, she waved her fists crazily, pouting her cheeks, and said angrily, Tang Huan is too hateful, can't you let me do it more than once, even if it's more than a day? Seeing Tang Yun's angry look, the middle-aged woman did not know whether to laugh or cry, but she felt helpless. In the past 2 years, in order for Tang Yun to be on top of the weapon refining sacred assembly, the moment the weapon refining competition of that year had returned to Fallen God City, Tang Yun had stayed at the place where the old ancestor of the Tang Kingdom, Tang Moyang, trained. It was only a dozen or so days ago that Tang Yun finally came out of there, and hurried towards the Heavenly Forging City without stopping. Tang Huan had actually long since become a Stage 7 martial master and a high-ranking weapon refiner more than a year ago. Furthermore, The high-grade weapons he had forged were actually comparable to heavenly-grade armaments. After arriving at the heavenly forging city, Tang Yun had finally recovered from the shock. He did not expect the latest news he received would give her another huge blow. "Your Highness doesn't need to be discouraged," the middle-aged woman could not help but advise. "Tang Huan is a complete freak. There is no need for us to compare ourselves with him. Given that Princess Your Highness's tools method attainments is not inferior to Wu Yixian, Meng Zhen, and Kuage's, Princess Your Highness will definitely be able to enter the top 3 this time around." Seeing that Tang Huan was still dejected, the middle-aged woman continued, "Even if we are going to compete, we do not have to compete with tools method attainments. We can still compete with other things." Compared to other things, Tang Huan's eyes lit up, and his eyes started to spin. The closer they got to the weapon refining sacred assembly, the more lively it became. At practically all of the time, a large number of martial warriors or weapon refiners had rushed into the large city, yet within the divine weapon pavilion Tang Huan was not affected in the slightest by the clamor of the outside world. At this moment, the amount of precious stones and ores on the ground in front of him had already decreased by more than half. On the table, weapons of all shapes and sizes were arranged in a row. Their lengths were all different, and their thickness varied, but on each of the weapons, there was an incomparably brilliant light shining out, interweaving horizontally, making the entire area look as if it were a dream. With a single glance, one could tell that the weapon contained an incomparable amount of power. It was as if, once activated, it would erupt forth like a volcano, revealing its overflowing might. They were all heavenly grade armaments that Tang Huan had forged these past few days.